Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. We are back for another day with the live stream. We're going to kick it off right now. We got a very special guest, but before that, let's welcome y'all.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah. We got an old setup today. You can't see the looper, but that's okay. Let's do some bass.
Yeah, ba boom, do 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 do, boom, 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 ba dum boom, ba doo do do do, boom, 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 boom. What key did I wind up in?
I wound up in F, I guess. Oh. Oh, yeah, yeah. I said, welcome to the stream today. Oh, 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 said, welcome to another episode of Isolate Together. We are day 34 today. And just tell us that we got a very special guest today. We got Nigel from Nilered coming on. But first, let me know where you're from, where you're watching from across the world today. Let's see. It was Zach S. the first comment today. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Zach S. If it's morning where you are. Hello from California, Suzanne Smith. Let's see what we got. Today is Anzac Day in Australia, New Zealand. Also DNA Day. Also Eeyore's birthday. Okay, sure. Hype, says Prox. Hey guys. Let's see. We got people from Berlin, from Chile, from Norway, from Brazil, from Finland, from Texas, from Constance, aloha from Hawaii, Michigan, France, Chatsworth, California. We got Chatsworth in the chat. We have Nick's Hydras watching from Belgium, Manchester, UK, Hungary, Nilered. Oh my God, says Amanda Jensen. Nigel, you're well appreciated over here. We got Gumbledop's near Hamburg. We got people from India, UK, Oklahoma, India, from Italy, from Sweden. Amanda's from Vancouver, Canada. How you guys doing today? Are you doing okay? You still isolating properly? Alfian Gunawan is from Indonesia. But our most special guest for this particular day, I want you to give all a very warm welcome to Nigel Braun of the channel Nilered. Welcome, Nigel. Welcome to the stream today. Oh, said welcome to the stream today. To the stream today.
Hello.
Hey, Nigel. How's it going?
Pretty good, and you?
I'm doing okay. Let us know in the chat if you can hear Nigel all right. I have a feeling that your microphone is a little soft. I'm gonna see if maybe
I can just turn it up.
If you can turn yourself up, I think that'd be a little better.
Is that better?
Um,
Is that better?
yeah, there we go. There we go. That's great. Hi, greetings, fellow Montrealer.
How's it going?
Not too bad. How's your quarantine?
I mean, it's been okay so far. It's pretty uneventful.
Yeah, it's like whenever I have a YouTuber on here, like we end up commenting on how little we're affected, right?
I mean, yeah, I mean, everything I do is like on the computer, or I mostly work alone anyway, so it doesn't really make a huge difference.
So who's your team right now? You've got you and your brother is helping you out? And
just my younger brother,
Okay.
and then we recently got a childhood friend to film for the second channel.
Okay, sweet. Oh yeah, I saw you were doing that.
Yeah, so it's like technically I still work with my brother because I live with him.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, no problems with that. But my other friend, I haven't seen him in like but even then though, we can still just do stuff over the internet. Well,
Yeah.
kind of.
Well, it's hard to go on location because you look like you're in your office right now.
Well, I had to come here because I have no webcam at home. But also it's like
Right.
here, there's nobody here.
Hmm.
And I purposely show up when there's nobody.
I see.
Yeah.
Do you find you're most productive when you're like just by yourself doing your own thing?
Yeah. That's like
just
the
flat
one
out.
bad-
Yeah, I don't like working with people.
Well, I've been so like the issue is that it's. I mean, I'm not to say this properly. The guy we hired, my friend, he's supposed to film me doing stuff for the second channel.
Right.
So he's always has questions. He wants to film projects. He wants to do stuff.
Mhm.
And then my brother does like a lot of behind the scenes administrative stuff, but and other stuff as well. But when they're sitting here, they always want to talk to me. So when I'm editing,
Yeah.
I have to keep talking to them. Or if I have to do something, they come and ask me questions. Whereas when I'm here alone, nobody asks me anything.
So are you a guy that can like focus by yourself and like just work for long periods of time and get stuff done? Because I find one of the reasons why I started recently, I've been going on Twitch and like Twitch streaming my production stuff. And the reason I've been doing that is because I cannot focus by myself. Oh, hey, twinsies.
Oh my god.
The Nilered beaker.
The merch.
Mm.
I have a problem where I can focus too much, so I don't do anything else.
Okay.
So it's like that's why I feel less, I guess, stressed working like this because I can make my own schedule.
Yeah.
So I don't have other people like tell me, "Oh, I'm going home in an hour. You have to get this done." I can do whatever I want. That's one thing. But it's like I'll show up here sometimes. Let's say like noon, and like the other day, I didn't like sit down until probably 10:30 p.m.
And
So
then like how long do you work then? Are you one of those like?
Well, I mean, I would just like I didn't even I think I ate like something really quick. It's
Okay.
like that's the thing. I just did not stop because I don't know. And I
Wait,
even when I'm doing
10:30 p.m. until
Yeah.
when?
No, I went from noon to 10:30.
Oh, from noon to 10. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Wow.
won't work overnight. But
That's
it's
impressive.
like it's bad because I also when I'm doing that I won't answer my phone.
Yeah, I always put
Like-
my phone on do not disturb when I'm doing these things because it's just there's something really like addicting and like even if I tell myself I'm not gonna look at my phone, if it starts to vibrate, there's like a third of my brain goes immediately to like, what is that? What's going on? Am I missing something?
It's weird because when I'm working like that, I just don't care. I just don't answer it.
That's good.
And it's my problem. I don't do I neglect a lot of things that I have to do.
We got Patrick from Tierzoo in the chat saying
He wants a beaker.
I need to get one of those beaker cups. Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't. Full disclosure, I didn't buy this.
Yeah, I just gave it to you. I think.
Yeah, well, because I don't know how many people know that we live in the same city. We have some old connections. Should we tell that?
And
story?
we used to hang out.
We used to hang out back in the good old days when free travel was still a human right.
To be fair, we hung out, and then you went away for what, like 3 weeks or a month?
Yeah. I guess that's true. I haven't seen you since then, eh?
And then we kind of like and then after that, I guess was it Christmas and stuff?
No, it was I went away after Christmas.
So it was after Christmas.
Yeah, so I think there was like Christmas, and then I'm not sure if I saw you before I headed out to.
I think because I saw you I think like a week before you left. So it's like I think you came back and then that was it.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm back. Now we can. Never mind.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. No, but we've had a couple of meetups with us and John Perry, hanging out and doing things, and we have a strange family connection because I was actually I was Nigel's lab mate in chemistry. No, Nigel's brother's lab mate, his older brother, Ryan. And I was like, when I tell stories on the stream about how terrible I was at chemistry and how I like accidentally sprayed my lab mate with a hose and stuff like that.
That was him.
a lot of those were Ryan. So yeah, it was like I can't believe how long it took for me to realize that you were around here. Like,
I think it's for some reason, I don't know why. I think it's just outside of maybe California and like a few other places in the US, there's just no community for creators, or there's a very small community. And I would say even in Montreal, it's like the science people hang out.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know anyone outside of science here.
there is like I don't know. It's just
I know there
yeah.
are definitely others, but it's like it just doesn't seem like there's much cohesion between everyone who's here.
Yeah, it's there's like for a while there was a thing in Montreal. There's like a creator HQ or whatever. I don't know if you
Mm,
ever saw people doing stuff with that. It was like they were trying to make like
mm.
a creator space, and there were a couple of like YouTube Montreal
I
type
was
events.
gonna say the fact that I
Um,
didn't even hear about it and have no clue what it
yeah, but that's the other thing. Like
is
I
part of
think
the
that there's
problem.
I think that there's a difficulty in people actually knowing who to contact for that too. Because like
Mm.
like I don't know how I found it, but I think I just like Googled YouTube Montreal at some point. It was like, oh, there is a thing. Okay. And it's like it's everybody, right? It's like people who are just getting into it. It's people who are mostly on Instagram or whatever else. With Montreal, the challenge is also that there's, like the population's like mostly francophone. And so there's like I know there's
Yeah.
a big like French Canadian community of
Mm.
YouTubers, and
No, there is for sure.
yeah, a lot of them hang out together and are kind of,
I mean,
they have
that's
they have their
very
own thing going.
possible. I was gonna say that I think that when I've spoken to most or a lot of people, the perception is mostly that the community's in Toronto.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's
Like,
because of Buffer probably.
I mean, they have more. I don't know. The perception is just always just, I guess, arts or media at least is just more prominent in Toronto. And when I think of a lot of Canadian creators that I know of, they're all either in like Toronto or Vancouver.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the odds would be 1 in 3 if, but
Yeah,
like,
almost.
because Canada pretty much has 3 big cities, and and then like if you're within 100 miles of any of those cities, you pretty much tell people you're from that city because
Oh yeah, I think when I say Toronto, I just mean Ontario.
yeah, you mean like somewhere
The
somewhere over
entire
west that way.
province. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I don't know, but like it's like I think we also like unless you see people like in LA, I think there's kind of a critical mass where like people are like collaborating all the time, or, like doing stuff on each other's
Mm.
channels. So you kind of get this sense of like, okay, here's where they are, here's what they're doing, and here's the people that are around them. But
And
like,
there's an active measure in LA for people to go there to have that happen,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. But it's also like I don't think we publicize very often where we're from, right? Like it's not relevant information, especially for us kind of, like science creators that we're indoors, we're doing our own thing. Like
Yeah.
it's not
And
like we're
if
skating
you were to
around
film
LA.
outside, yeah, I guess like that is a good point. Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
that, yeah. So I
There's
don't know.
never any outside shots in what I do.
I don't know what would there be. There's the
I
chemistry.
mean, the
of
good old days in the backyard
nature.
when I would film stuff.
Yeah, is that how you started?
Yeah, it was pretty. I've been watching more and more of my old videos lately, and they're kind of funny.
I did. I've been doing a series on here where I like as part of the stream, I'll watch my old videos, just like with me in the corner and pause them and critique them. And
Well, it's
there's
like there's certain ones I watch and I go, like I just wonder why I did something.
hmm.
But then I watch other ones that, like yesterday, I was watching one where I was like, huh, I actually liked the way that was presented, and I like learned something from it
Interesting.
that was somehow lost over time.
Yeah, you can take you have this time capsule of all the things you've ever tried.
Well, one thing I realized was I over time as doing videos, I became more and more attentive to all the details and the transitions between shots.
Right.
But then I
So
think
you
I
do
became,
all the editing, right? That's
yeah,
you. Yeah.
but I meant more like I don't know how I don't know how to really describe it. I became very attentive in how things I don't know, it's continuity in the shots.
Hmm.
But then I got to a point where it was like too much. I'd film so many shots that never made it. So then filming again, I started being like, okay, I don't need this shot. I don't need this. Okay, I don't actually have to show that. That doesn't like that's completely pointless.
Okay.
But then I would watch my early videos and realize I didn't do that in the early videos.
You just
So it
shot
was something
everything.
that like I built up, realized it was not ideal, and then
Oh, okay.
like dismantling. Then I was like, wait, I never did it in the beginning. So it was just a habit that I built over time.
So it's something you got this impression in your mind of like shoot everything. Everything is important. Be super careful.
Yeah, exactly. And then it got to like a point where it was you'd film, yeah, an insane amount of footage and use 25% of it.
Yeah.
But filming all that extra stuff made you take twice as long. So it was just like such a waste of time.
Well, I think that makes sense though. But like, probably, do you think that shooting everything gave you a sense of what's important to shoot? Like, you get kind of a data bank of what these are the shots that I actually end up using. Here's some
Yeah, and
interesting stuff.
I was actually thinking about it today. The biggest thing is because I think it's when I edit, I worry that I'm gonna. I hate running into that problem when you're editing and you realize there's like a gap you didn't film or there's something missing, and
Yeah.
you have to just sit there and be like, okay, I have to somehow make it normal that
Yeah, you
this
have to
footage isn't here.
paper it over somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, and that happens all the time. Like sometimes I film 20 seconds of something, then
Mm.
realize I want to talk about it for a minute, and you're like, oh no. So it's like you really want to make sure you have all the footage. But it becomes just kind of too much sometimes where you're taking 18 angles of the same thing, and then sometimes you don't even use one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I've gotten, because my videos have tended more these days towards like towards animation. I tend to I
Yeah.
don't have that problem as much because I can just go back and
Mm.
redo and animate whenever I want. I remember, like, there were a couple times when I've tried to shoot like live action, like cinematic type content. But I felt like, for me, I wasn't showing science in my shots. I was just, I was doing, like a music video or some sort of like gimmick on a storyline. And it's easy to think that you got way too much footage. Like, for me, I found that I didn't get enough coverage. I think, like, I thought I had way too much footage, but then looking back, it was like, well, I just hate like 80% of these shots.
Oh
So I
no.
would cut it down, and then what was left is like, well, kind of make
I
it work.
just Yeah, and I was like, I just want everything to be set. Like, trying to think of what I was gonna say. Actually, I just forgot.
That's all right.
But no, like I obsess a little bit too much about getting the shot exactly how I want it to be, and it
Mm.
makes things just take forever.
Yeah, because like a lot of chemistry is pretty time sensitive, right? Like,
That is the nightmare. So that's when I said I stayed from 12 till 10:30. It's because I
mm,
had something that was time sensitive. So it's like you then have to set out like a time, like a plan
yeah,
on how you're going to execute the
like
reaction.
this event is
Because
unfolding in front of you.
yeah, because you don't have time to set the camera up.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to choose what to film, what not to film, and it's like things have to be pre-set up in a specific way so that you can just immediately jump to a camera that's already running.
Mm.
And that I haven't filmed because what I'm doing now is a lot of organic chem,
Yeah.
and I forgot how time sensitive a lot of stuff was. Where it's like you might have something where it's like pull it out of the ice bath, or sorry, pull it out of like a boiling water bath and put it immediately in an ice bath.
Yes. Yeah. That was
And it's
always my
like
nightmare.
you put it
Trying to do
in, and
chemistry.
within 5 seconds, it starts crystallizing or color changes. So you're like, you don't have time to move a camera.
Mm. Yeah.
You have to just have two. Like, that's why I have a second camera. You have two cameras set up, and one's already rolling.
Mm. Yeah. What like what is I don't know, like the aerogel one seemed, on the other hand, that every stage took forever. Like,
Uh,
are there any like really quick, timely ones in that? Because like I watched that video of yours, and it was like, all right, well, I left this for 10 hours. Like, well, that's pretty easy to get that shot then.
it was the most. I mean, that was a really long and drawn out one.
Yeah.
I think there was. Trying to think, there might have been a few shots, but that was like a pretty slow one. Um, the most annoying part about that shot or that entire project was figuring out or not figuring out filming inside the chamber because I had to run the camera for I think an hour and a half or 2 hours at a time.
Mm. Yeah.
That it was just annoying to have to set everything, all the lighting up and everything to get it done. But besides that, there wasn't anything super, I would say, fast paced.
Yeah. How long from when did you first have that idea of like or like start implementing, like, I'm making this aerogel video? Because I feel like you were definitely talking about it for a while. Like, it was kind of was like after the ferrofluid one, that was kind of the next big whale.
It was kind of last year sometime.
Hmm.
So like the biggest transition was I used to always just make whatever video I felt like doing.
Okay. That's
Uh,
my current plan.
yeah, but the problem was I never did the videos that I truly wanted to do
Hmm.
because when you think about, for example, like aerogel, it was just daunting because I didn't know too much about it. And then it's like you have to build a pressure chamber. You have to buy all these parts.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like I didn't even know how to order the parts. It was on a I know now how to work the site properly and well and what all the parts are, but it's like you have to read up about I don't know the whole backstory of how it's all put together, all the chemistry. You have to order everything. I kind of just like procrastinated all that.
And yeah, you're like, well, I'll figure it out when I get there, and then when you get there, you realize it's going to take 2 months of
And
figuring out.
it was this transit like ferrofluid was the first time I was like, this project might take 6 months or a year, and I will just do a run every couple weeks.
Okay, yeah.
But what happened because there's the problem with the ferrofluid video was there were so many variables. So going into it was the first of all, I didn't know. I tried to do it with circuit board etchant.
Circuit board etchant. What
Yeah,
is
because
that?
it's ferric chloride.
Okay.
And so the first question is it pure enough to do it?
So it's the right compound, but it's just it might
It's
be
FeCl3, and you also
Okay.
need FeCl2. So the
Okay.
idea in the video is you take FeCl3, you throw steel wool in another amount of it, and it will reduce it to FeCl2.
Okay.
That's what I did in the video. You got the two things. But it's like, was it pure enough? Because then on top of that, you have to know what concentrations to use, all the other things that you have to add, how fast you stir the mixture. I think there's like 6 variables that I had to work with. Not on top of not knowing if my starting stuff was great.
Yeah, that's
it's
interesting.
like
It doesn't seem like it would be that complicated when you see the idea of ferrofluid. It's like, okay, get some
it
little
was
magnetic thing, put it in some viscous thing, and you should be good to
okay.
go, right?
The biggest problem is that you have to make magnetite, but the problem is it can't be the particles to have good ferrofluid, I think have to be 10 nanometers.
Ah, all right.
Like if you have anything bigger, they tend to come together. And if you have anything smaller, they're not magnetic enough.
Oh, they have to be like resisted by the viscosity of the fluid at
Well,
low scales has to be enough to keep them apart.
well, they have to be colloidally suspended and so small that they actually are separated by the solvent
Right.
molecules.
Okay.
So they're
yeah.
like they're dissolved. But the thing is, if you get them too small, then they're the magnetic I forget what it's called. The force,
Yeah, like the magnetic dipole or whatever just isn't gonna.
it's a specific term on each of them isn't strong enough to make a good ferrofluid because they're too small.
Okay.
Like you need to have them big enough that they can actually push and pull on the fluid,
Yeah.
but not so big that they fall out of solution, but not so small that they're too weak. And
Ah.
every condition like concentration, reaction time, temperature, everything affects it. Even though, like I said, the rate that you stir it with, I think even the shape of your stirring thing will affect it.
Is that true
but-
after you get it too? Like you've got to keep this thing at like the finished fluid.
No,
at a
once
specific
it's pretty.
temperature
I
to
still
work?
have some right now. It's almost a year old and it's still fine.
Nice.
But and then on top of that, I found out later the first run. My method for it was to test every variable. You'd have to be like, okay, I have to buy pure reagents and then selectively go through every variable and do every run.
So there was no good process that you found. You just trial
It was
and errored it.
so overwhelmingly time consuming. And I'll tell you one thing too that messed up. My actual method was just shotgun. Choose all these conditions I think are good and just randomly change them.
All right.
And by chance, I think on the 4th try or something, it worked.
So, but like,
Stuff part, like it worked so well that I was like, wow, this was too easy. But I tried to scale it down from 4 liters to 1 liter, and then it stopped working because I think the stirring and it's the fact that if you do on a larger scale, if you're adding your base at a certain rate, it now takes longer because you have more base. So it's like, if you're doing it on a smaller scale, your base is going to be added at the same rate, but you have less base, so it's going to be a slower. The reaction's going to be
Wait,
done sooner.
when you say base here, you mean like the fluid that's being suspended in, or do you mean an actual base?
Oh, sorry, ammonia. I had
Oh,
ammonia.
okay.
But it's like if you add that at the same rate and you have less amount to add because it's on a smaller scale, your reaction time is less. Right? So it means your particles have less time to form.
Yes.
So I
think I'm following that.
You know what I mean?
I will admit that I have a lot less experience.
I would just say so.
How
the basic
chemistry
premise is
scales with size.
I'll just say
and with how
if you
physics
have
scales with size.
If you have 4 liters, let's say you have to add 1 liter at a rate of a mil a minute.
Yeah.
You're going to take 1,000 minutes. But if you have to add 100 mils at a mil a minute, you're going to take 100 minutes.
Yeah.
But that means that your reaction is done 10 times faster.
So you should be adding 100 mils still in the same minute.
But do you add it at the same rate, or do you slow it down to make the reaction time equivalent?
Yeah.
I still don't know.
Some sort of
I don't really know why it
molarity
failed
per minute or whatever.
That's the thing. You might have to scale it like that.
Yeah.
But it just so happened to just be the right time duration, because that was the other thing too. If you don't let it sit there long enough, the particles might not get big enough. But if you let them sit too long, they might get too big. It's just a mess.
Well,
I still don't. I've been meaning to go back because it's so not consistent.
Like you couldn't start an industrial scale verification.
I really wanted to, and I tried, but it just wouldn't work.
Like you wanted to have like vials that you could send out to people.
Yeah, that's what my original plan was, but it just was so inconsistent.
I mean,
I realized
that'd be great.
I think the biggest failure after was when you wash the things. You have to use the minimal amount of alcohol. But I haven't even tested that. I kind of just like moved on to other stuff.
Well, I mean, maybe I don't know if the ferrofluid side business is as it is lucrative, or whether it's as useful as doing more different.
I think it would just be more cool.
Be interesting, yeah.
If you could make it really consistently, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
If you know the exact conditions, but without knowing them, you just make garbage every time. It's just completely useless garbage. So it's kind of like an all or nothing process.
Yeah. Someone was asking what. I mean, I know the answer to this, but people seem to be confused what your logo is. Was that the first video it wasn't the first video you ever did. That reaction. It was just a really cool, interesting one, right?
Yeah, and the reason it's the logo is because it's a circle, and it fits well.
It's like, oh, this goes places. Yeah, I wish I had made my logo a circle. Would have been a lot easier to put in spots.
It just happened to fit well, and I thought it was cool, so I put it as my end screen for a long time.
Okay.
What still is, actually. So then my brother was like, why don't you just put it as your logo? So it was better. The old logo was like a pixelated weird thing that no one knew what it was. So
was it supposed to represent something?
No, it was another just random photo.
All right.
So I just put this on, and then it's been there for so long that I'm kind of stuck with it.
Well, it's fairly iconic now, I think. I don't know.
That's the thing. Like now it's been long enough that it's established as the logo.
It's very recognizable. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, but it never had any meaning.
So that reaction is it's a clock reaction, right? It's some sort of there's a cycle to it.
Yeah, it's just an incredibly complicated clock. Oh, I mean, all the clock reactions are complicated.
I mean, all clocks are a little complicated. Is this clock, if you had to choose between making this clock reaction and putting together an actual clock?
I'd probably say the reaction, actually.
Get Wintergaten and do both of them at the same time. A clock race.
Oh my god. I mean, I feel like mine's way easier.
Yeah.
But sorry.
It's a really interesting reaction though, because that's the kind of reaction that happens a lot in like life processes, like human development.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these clock cycles that are regulating things like your vertebrae and these like repeating segments that various organisms have. Like they're using enzymes and transcription factors and like this sort of thing. But like, I feel like this is in some ways closer to the complexity, the chemical complexity of like life than a lot of the times you do chemistry. It's like for manufacturing, and you're pretty much using stuff in equilibrium, you know?
Well, so the biggest thing is that clock reactions are very similar, to biology, um, in just general biometabolism, like in general.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just a push and pull between two separate processes, um, and and that's also, I guess, it's why these reactions are pretty rare because it's kind of rare to have these, like the one of the biggest, I mean, besides the iodine clock. So I wouldn't say like these are clock reactions, kind of, but they're more oscillating, right?
Okay.
So this and the how I forget the name of the other one. There's another classic clock reaction that's a spin-off of the iodine clock, but it's how am I forgetting the name? Someone might know. Because the iodine's a clock reaction. It just changes colors and that's it.
Okay.
Um, but there's another one that is based on the Briggs-Rauscher. So it kind of does what the iodine clock does, and it goes dark, but then it lightens up again. And like there's very few actual examples of oscillating reactions that truly do go back and forth. And what's interesting is I think the Belousov, the big difference is it's not stirred. You get to see what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Whereas the Briggs-Rauscher, the demos are always stirred.
Which
but
means
you'll see it
you'll get the whole beaker will do something
at the same time. But you'll even see it in the iodine. If you don't stir it, you see it happens in different areas. Like it's not like a uniform change often if it's not mixed super well. But like with this one, it's because you actually get local areas of concentration changes, and it ends up being kind of like biology where you have reactions that are segregated, except there's no actual membrane here. It's just segregated by, I guess, diffusion limits. Like they can't.
Yeah. And this dynamical, like, so how many steps are there in that reaction? There must be at least 3. Like what kind of cycle? If you were to
in this
graph
one,
it out,
there's like, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think there's like 14 or something.
Oh, really?
Or like 10.
Wow.
It's super complicated. I don't remember though. In the video, I just remember making a million lines. Because it's like,
what do you mean a million lines?
Sorry, a million lines on the screen being like, this goes to this, then this reacts, then this reacts, and then this reacts, and then it gets picked up by this. I just remember there's a million things going on.
Yeah, and I guess part of that is also like you can't just have a propagating reaction. You also have to have one that is visible, and you can see in a cool way, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like if you just take a reaction and don't mix it, you probably get some kind of cool separation that's going on, but it's just a clear solution, so you have no idea what's happening.
What are those outward expanding rings? What are they nucleating from?
So this reaction was done 2 years ago. So my memory is not.
I mean, I don't want to grill you on this, but that was.
Oh no, I don't feel like I'm getting grilled. I'm just saying
like it was sort of different every time, I think. But so it's like sort of seems to be random. But is it like from like an imperfection in the bottom of the glass, or like there's got to be something that like breaks equilibrium and starts it going from one point?
It's one of those weird things, where I remember thinking that, like, where does it start? How does it start? And it seems to just, I think, if my memory's right, I think it's just sporadic.
Okay.
So I think it ends up just being how the concentration changes and all this stuff happens. You get a certain point that hits like a super low amount of a certain chemical, and then it lets another reaction kick in that spot. And what happens is all the areas around it are then depleted, but this one spot that happened to be the lowest and the other reaction was able to take over, it then is able to let another reaction, sorry, I'm like confusing myself as I say it. At the low point, the other reaction takes hold, and then as it produces a certain chemical, it triggers the area around it to also produce that chemical.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. But
it must be that before it starts, it's on some sort of unstable point where it's going to roll off in some direction.
Well, I think it's just complete. If you just look at probability and stats, where if you just put all the chemicals out in the tray, like I had it, and just let them react, you are going to have certain areas that just, whether it's because of temperature or local concentration or diffusion and everything, you'll just
Mm.
sporadically have areas that just got depleted faster.
Okay.
And because of that, they turn over sooner.
And
But
like little areas of under concentration or over concentration will feed back on themselves.
yeah, I don't remember exactly what happened. I think it's like the whole thing is getting depleted, but then certain areas get depleted faster.
Mm.
And because of that, they switch to producing something else. And then by producing that, they affect the concentration of the stuff around it. They affect, and then
Yeah, because they're
it
drawing
depletes.
they're drawing
Yeah,
from their
yeah.
surroundings to fill
So
their void, and then those surroundings
exactly.
need
And
to
it
draw from.
triggers
Yeah,
that. And then
yeah.
it just keeps kind of drawing and it propagates as a wave. But I remember thinking that, and there was no real explanation. I
Hmm.
find a lot of these times when you look up this stuff, the explanation they give is pretty weak. They'll just go, they'll tell you the reaction that's going on, but then you have the question, like you said, but why does it start in
Yeah.
these places? You're like, I get that it's happening, but why doesn't the whole thing just go? And
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to
so
look into that because often I feel like often what happens when you hit those barriers is like that you've hit some sort of domain wall in how we structure knowledge. Where it's like, okay, this is a thing that is now switching to like maybe it's switching to a physics principle or something that
I
you
just
like no one in chemistry really would have to deal with. Like it's kind of a curiosity to you because it's a reaction that starts somewhere and that's fine.
I think it's weird, and it's something I notice in a lot of just science in general, is everyone explains it to a point that's just good enough.
Yeah.
But and one example of this going back to ferrofluid was why does ferrofluid spike with a magnet?
Okay.
So the question that I had, and it's funny because for the video, I was going to explain it, and I wrote this whole explanation, went into all this detail, then was like, wait a second, that's so off topic. Like it was like an 8-minute explanation as to why it
Oh,
spiked,
I would have
and I was just
enjoyed
like,
that.
but it was so off topic.
Because it's
And I was
very
gonna
that's
make
deep into like like magnetohydrodynamics physics stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and I originally wasn't going to talk about it until I tried to find the answer, and I couldn't because they'll
Mm.
say like again, it's kind of similar. You have your ferrofluid, everything's evenly dispersed.
Yeah.
You put an even magnetic field over it. Why does it spike in certain like why do certain areas spike?
Yeah.
And it was just like all the explanations would just be so surface level that I guess if you didn't really care too much, it would be fine. But if you feel like you have to answer it and then you fear the question, it's like, but it doesn't, you don't feel like you're really answering why
Hmm.
it spiked.
Yeah. Like let me take a shot at it based on having done no research. So my guess is that there's a net force outward on the fluids but fluids are unstable. They can slightly wave in different directions. If you get one little wave or ripple pointing outwards, it'll experience a slightly stronger force, and that'll draw it further outwards. So you'll end up with this spike shooting out where you're like the fluid is also concentrating magnetic field lines along it as it spikes.
Yes.
So this kind of dynamically forms that shape. What I'm not sure of is why. I guess a stronger so there's got to be an interplay of forces between like the surface tension of the fluid holding it
Yeah.
back and the magnet pulling it out, which is and so larger like a larger field can make larger deviations, so your equilibrium ends up with larger spikes. That
Yeah. I mean, like that's more or less a decent explanation.
okay?
It's just
Is
that
it
all
deeper?
the
Is it
ones,
way deeper than that?
well, I mean, it was just that when I looked it up, like you gave a better explanation because you actually tried to explain why spikes even formed. Whereas most times, if you look it up, again, this is a year ago, so my memory is not super
Yeah.
good on both the physics behind it and exactly what happened.
Hmm.
But when I tried looking it up, it was like, oh, it's a balance of forces between the magnetic force and gravity and surface tension. So gravity and surface tension are pulling down,
Yeah.
and the magnetic force is trying. I say magnetic force. I forget what it actually is trying to.
I mean, it's
What's it
magnetic
called?
and it's a force. I'm fine with I'm fine with that.
But they just kind of said that. I forget the exact like physics term for it, but like it's a balance between that and the spikes are where the magnetic field is maximized. And you're just like, but that doesn't explain why the spike forms.
Yeah, you have
Just
to know more about instability, like fluid instabilities and
yeah, but they
yeah.
never explain it. They just go, oh, it's at in the spikes are the maximum magnetic field. You're like, okay, that's great, but then why is there a maximum? Why is it when you put it on the fluid that is like I said, why does a spike form in those
Yeah.
spots? I still don't even know if they're random. They seem to be pretty consistent when you put the magnet
Well,
on it.
they seem to be, they're probably randomly nucleated, but it
Yeah,
like,
then they move to a certain spot.
well, like a given field, because they seem to, like, if you've got a cylindrically symmetric magnetic field or whatever, it seems
Yeah.
like they're able to rotate just fine. So I would guess that, like, the overall, like, size of the spikes is pretty determined by the strength of the field. I wouldn't
Yes.
like, there's probably an actual solution to what's the, like, the surface of least potential or whatever that would be the actual perfect one, but I
I found so many papers with all the physics and everything of
yeah.
calculating exactly how big the spike will be, the angle of the spike, and
Right.
everything based on the magnetic field.
That actually sounds
But
like a really fun problem to do.
it's so complicated because
if you're like, if you're a physicist and you're into fluid dynamics and you want to,
it's just so complicated because as you lift the fluid, you get potential energy,
yeah,
and it's like obviously that's not favorable. So it's just a balance between because sorry, the longer the spike is, this is my like understanding. The longer the spike grows in the magnetic field,
yeah,
the longer the path that the magnetic field has to travel through a more magnetically permeable medium.
yeah,
So it's trying to make the liquid as long as possible because it prefers not to go through air. Because
yeah.
by doing that, it keeps the energy low. So by balancing the gain in potential and the surface tension, it's balanced, with that reduction in energy by lifting the fluid as high as possible. And it's like, that makes sense. But then it was just, like I said, why do the spikes form in those specific places? And I couldn't find a single explanation. They
But
would always.
I don't know how specific. Like, if you did 5 runs and looked at where the spikes were, just bring the magnet away, put it back, bring the magnet away, put it back. I don't know if they would always be in the same places or not, or if they just,
I don't know.
They'd look the same, but I can't tell the difference between
No, I
one
know.
configuration of 100 spikes and another.
They probably aren't in the same space because if you look at them on the magnet, they're oftentimes like moving around.
Yeah.
You can actually see the spikes moving. So
Yeah,
they're
it's
definitely
one of
not
the
like
trippiest
in the
things.
same place.
Have you seen that video, like that like musical science video? Not one of mine, but people doing, like, because speakers have big magnets in them.
Mhm.
You can do fun things
Oh,
with
yeah, yeah, I've
ferrofluids and like music.
I wanted to do that, but the mess that I thought it would create was just, it made me not even attempt it.
Yeah. Cool. I'm gonna go to a question here.
Sure.
Because I thought this is kind of interesting and something that applies to both of us. It's a question specifically for you from Jacob. What's it like knowing so much stuff that most people don't know when you try to explain why stuff happens in chemistry? What's it like internally?
I mean,
So this
I don't know if I truly understand the question, but it's like, so what he's asking is, what's it like to just think about and know a lot about chemistry, but when you go to explain it, people just have no idea what you're talking about?
It's like there's a lot of, I don't know. I get to this problem sometimes when I am trying to explain something that has like 4 or 5 levels of understanding that need to be built up to it, right? So, for example, if you're talking about, I don't know, this oscillating reaction, and you're trying to explain it to like a fellow like chem grad, you'll have one sort of explanation for it. But if you're trying to explain it to a preschooler, you'll definitely have another explanation, like a high school chemistry person. Like there's,
Well, I would say, yes.
yeah.
No, sorry, finish what you're saying.
Well, I feel like it's easy to explain something if you have one, if it's like one level of knowledge removed from what the person already knows, but it's a much trickier problem to like get 2 or 3 layers up. And I think that's often what I'm trying to do when I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, let me try to explain quantum field theory to high school students in a way that actually will make some semblance of sense.
I mean, that's just the entire struggle of making the video in general, right?
Yeah.
Because if you want to be technical, you go off the rails and the problem is that even people in the field won't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's like I have the same issue because my brother he's a degreed chemist. I'm not a
Right.
degreed chemist. He actually
Okay.
knows more about a lot of, I guess, like quantum, a lot of more in-depth inorganic stuff. But I'll talk to him about stuff, and he goes, I don't know.
Yeah.
And the reason is because once you go so specialized into a project, there's nobody who can help you except people who are doing exactly that.
Yeah. It's
I remember
just niche.
like one thing, it's probably actually the next video that I'm going to be doing it on. I was trying to make phosphorescent powder, so glow in the dark powder,
Okay.
but it's so specialized in why things glow in the dark that it's like just being a chemist doesn't let you know enough about it.
So
So
just
it's
the general theory behind phosphorescence?
yeah, like I'm saying, like the general theory, but when
Hmm.
I'd ask him, being like, "Do you think if I do this, this, and this, it's still gonna phosphoresce?" He'd be like, "I don't know."
Right.
Like, he's like, "I know what phosphorescence is, and I know why it happens, but it's like when you ask him, "Oh, do you think the crystal structure? Why in the crystal structure of this chemical does this metal cause it to phosphoresce?" And he's like, "How would I know?"
Yeah.
And you have to like find some random papers that some guy specifically researched on that. Otherwise, like you start asking people questions and stuff about that, they're never gonna know the answer.
Yeah,
And
it's just the amount of specialized knowledge that exists in the world is immense and doesn't fit in any brain.
yeah, so I'm saying like it doesn't matter whether people know about chem or not. If
Hmm.
you or it's in any field, if you really go in depth on one topic, um, people just they're not gonna they'll understand, but sometimes they're just like, look, I don't know.
Yeah,
But I think a good example of someone who doesn't know any chemistry is my mom.
that's good.
She's
It's good to
like,
have that control.
but trying to explain stuff to her
Hmm.
is I think I've said stuff before. She knows like zero about chemistry. She'd like absolutely almost zero. So when I explain stuff to her, if I have a problem and I want to be like, oh, I ran into this issue, I really have to explain it differently
Yeah. Yeah.
because
So how do you go about doing that? Like, because for
from
me, I find I have to like this is what I was saying. I have to lay a lot of because I do the same thing, but I have to lay a lot of groundwork to make it work. I'm like, okay, let me start with like there's these things called electron fields, and then like
with my mom, I don't do any of that.
okay.
I don't even explain what really happened. I explain kind of more what happened, not the science behind it.
Okay.
So it's like, because she knows nothing. I'm not going to teach her all the chemistry.
Hey,
So
you
it's
could try.
more.
I don't know. Like my
She's in.
I feel like my goal is
Yeah.
always to see how far I can like to what level of non-understanding I can reach and pull them up to some level of understanding that's actually genuine.
I think my mom is so busy that oftentimes too, like she's just not dedicated enough. She's thinking of so many other things that there's just no way I could
Yeah, like
teach her all that.
she's more there to support you in that
Yeah.
moment
So
than
like
than to learn the details of chemistry.
exactly.
Yeah.
So if I go into if I explain stuff to her, I'll be like, today I think I heated the reaction too much, and that just caused I'll be like, it just caused it to fail because with too much heat, it can make other stuff form.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But I'm
Yeah.
not gonna tell her like chemical names or anything. And she goes, "Oh, that sucks. What could you do to like fix it?" I'm like, "Well, I might do it again and just really make sure not to overheat it."
Mm.
Because and then I might tell her because she likes cooking a lot. So I'd be like, it could be like it's like in cooking, if you leave it in the whatever on the stove too long, your
Yeah.
food can be terrible. And so she's like, "Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. So just be very careful next time." So I go, "Okay." And I'm going to her, like you said, more for just being like, "Oh, it sucks that it didn't work."
Yeah.
Then I'm not looking for her to teach me how to fix the problem.
Fix your reaction and solve your problems.
But I find most people can't help me because, like I said, you go so specialized into something that it's something that you kind of just have to try. And it goes the other way too. I have people asking me questions, and I don't know. Like I'll run a reaction and people go, do you think that if I tried it with this chemical instead that it would work? And I was like, my instinct is probably, but
Yeah. I guess
I'm not going to tell you yes or no.
it's easy to like, I don't know, to give the impression if you're always if you make a bunch of videos where you talk about things that you really worked out and know well,
Mhm.
like I guess people can easily get the impression like, oh, this person is an encyclopedia of chemistry and they're just popping this stuff off the top of their head, and
I
now
feel
I can ask them any of my questions.
it's very similar to cooking. So
Mm.
it's like if someone makes a really good meal and you ask, do you think it would be better if I added, I mean, simple would be like more salt. Everyone knows what that would do.
Yeah.
But you'd be like, do you think if I did this, this, and this, that it might be better? You're like, you're going to have to try
Yeah.
it because it's so complicated that by changing small details, for example, you might change one condition that makes you get a purer product, but you get half the amount. And you're like, was that better? It's like, maybe. And sometimes it just causes it to fail for some unknown reason. So there are a lot of times that's why in research chem, it's like you have to do it. Doesn't matter how much theory you have. Doesn't matter if literally your molecule, you changed it by like one tiny detail. You have to do it multiple times and prove that it's repeatable, because sometimes things aren't. And I don't know, it's so finicky.
Yeah, that's a thing that definitely frustrated me in chemistry, was how it seemed like you could do all the steps precisely right, and at the end of the day, not only is it not how it's supposed to turn out, but you have no real sense of why it isn't how it's supposed to turn out.
Even like going back to the ferrofluid thing, I did it probably like 5 or 6 times, same quantities, right? And I bought a really expensive mixer that you could put the RPMs at the exact same speed. I put the height of the stir, everything was the same. I used the same starting chemicals from the same bottle, everything. And I would add it at the same rate. But for some unknown reason, the reaction would just sometimes take more base. I don't know why. It would just, it's the same everything. And it would be like, you use 10% more base this time. You use 10% less base. You use 20% more. And I'm like, why?
Yeah. I don't know.
Which is the nightmare of how unrepeatable that stuff is.
And it's
but
also
it's like
just
the RPM's the same, the container's the same, everything's the same. And why is it different?
And there's the world. I mean, I don't know. That's a decent lesson about the world, I guess. You know, this is the existence, the constant existence of unknown unknowns. Oh, hey, Nigel's gonna take a drink. We're all gonna take a little hydration right now. Take our beakers. If you've got a Nilered beaker, if not, you can order them from, I don't know, however, Nigel.
No. I was gonna say, don't advertise it. The problem right now is, I started. All the glassware stuff was just being sold by me. Then it got so much work to pack everything that I hired my mom, and she likes doing it. But now the problem is my mom just gets overwhelmed and I don't even advertise it.
Your family is a victim of your own success.
So no, well, it's just my mom who works like whenever she feels like it.
Yeah.
So it's just funny because now we actively try not to mention it so my mom doesn't get, because to be fair, she'll get like, if she got 3 orders a day, that would be a lot for her. Okay. So it's like,
you know, I feel like I love I love that you're a mom and pop shop in a way. Like it's okay. I've got like my brother helping out, my mom helping me out, but dude, you do have like a very, very large following, and you could probably hire someone to package glass.
Well, we're trying to merge the glassware sales to DFTBA.
Oh, interesting.
Because I just told my mom it's a waste of her time to box stuff.
Yeah.
She started doing it as a favor for me. And then I was like, well, that's a time-consuming favor, so I pay her.
Okay.
And it's like, I think I lose money overall.
So it's
like, but I'm pretty sure on like, it might be balanced by good months and bad months. It's a loss. I don't know. But
it sounds like you need to do some bookkeeping on this.
But the problem is, it's more my mom. She finds it like relaxing, I guess, to do, and she likes helping out. But I told her ultimately I want her to not do any of that anymore. We'll move it
Yeah.
all to DFTBA because my mom, her job before she had us, she was an interior designer, and
Okay.
she really likes graphic designing and everything.
Hmm.
So I was like, you shouldn't be packing boxes
Yeah. That
in
seems
in your basement. You should be coming up with designs. You should be, and she's really good at uh like business planning and doing like a bunch of other stuff. So I was like, that's what you should be putting your effort into, because that's what she likes doing more and is very good at. But for now, she likes it. She doesn't have to pack that much. Like she tells me, it's like 30 minutes or an hour every couple days or
fair
something.
enough. Yeah. Man, real family business though.
I mean, my dad does nothing. So
All right.
my older brother does nothing. Ryan does nothing. So
They're off doing
only
their
partial
own things.
family.
Yeah. Question, Niall, what motivated you to choose biochem over chemistry for your degree? So you were biochem?
Yeah.
I mean, I would answer that because biochem's more interesting, but I'm I'm biased.
It's kind of it's not really like a complicated answer. The way that I always used to do things, and I still do it like that, is I hate planning. Um, so, and it's even in like the videos I do, I don't write down my procedures. I realize that how bad it is. I just read stuff and then I do it, and then I write down on a piece of paper certain things.
So like whatever doesn't go, like, do you try to make your videos like I don't know, complete enough that you can go back and reconstruct your process from them?
Yeah. But I mean, for example, I will just read how much I need of each chemical and what I need to do, read the whole process. And then usually from memory, I can remember everything. So I just double check before I do it.
Yeah.
But that's just how I've always done stuff. It's just always on a whim. I always double check because it would be a disaster if I just mixed the wrong chemicals and then ruined an entire process.
Yeah, that wouldn't be
But
great.
I always did that with school too. So like I had the habit of studying the day before the exam. Well, actually, it was worse in CEGEP, like what we have here in Quebec. I would do nothing for the whole year and then write my exam and try to get as close to 100 as possible to pull up my really bad average. I figured that was
a bit of a kindred spirit.
I maximized the effort versus result category.
Yeah, I mean the like, I don't know. Did you find that worked for you long term? Because I found like
I got destroyed in university.
Yeah, I had
I did fine in CEGEP, but I did destroyed in university.
There's a point where like I feel like probably a lot of smart high school students and our Quebec system, which has CEGEP, is like it's like halfway between high school and university. It's like I don't know. It's kind of this amorphous thing.
Yeah, but university is like
but university is really where it kicks you. Yeah. They're trying to weed you out. Like in CEGEP, they're still like, encouraging you and trying to, just get the people through who can do it. But like, I mean, there's a certain point where it's just like, if you're good enough at taking a test, you don't need to be actually like super good at the material.
So I still use my technique, and I will answer that question. I just wanted to like say this.
No, let's go off.
No, it's relevant. So it's like I did apply that technique in university. So at McGill, you don't have to. Everything's recorded. So I didn't attend a single class until the last year.
Jeez. Okay. When I was at McGill, it was more sporadic. Like I think about half of
the
professors were
all
doing
recorded it. I just wouldn't show up. I remember. Sorry, this is a bigger tangent. I remember the worst thing I did was with Ryan. We found out how you could pull the recorded lecture from any class you wanted as long as you had a McGill login. So there's a class where the teacher got really mad that no one showed up because it's recorded. So he said he'd stop posting it online if people stopped showing up.
All right.
But since Ryan and I figured out how to get the recorded stuff, regardless of whether you were granted access, I still didn't show up. I just downloaded them without his permission and didn't show up. But because of that, I wouldn't do anything until the midterm. Literally nothing for like a month and a half. Then I would just watch lectures 24/7 until the final.
That's not good. That's not a good strategy for like actually retaining knowledge.
I
Like,
retained a decent amount.
really?
But
Like, I always found I could get through the exam with that, but then like you asked me 2 weeks later,
I
what was
remember a
that about?
lot of it.
Mm.
It took me the entire university to figure out how to study properly. Uh, but the point in saying all this was I chose biology to go into the day applications were due, like the deadline. I woke up in the morning, went to my computer, and was like, "Yeah, bio sounds fine," and I applied.
Nice.
That's it. So, but halfway through bio, I was disillusioned because of my study habits, and I had like a 55 or 60% in every class after
You
the
were
midterm.
disillusioned. Your illusion being that once you got to university, you were gonna bother to study properly.
Well, my entire thing was I just wanted to go to med school, and I didn't care what program I took.
Okay.
So I was like, "Oh, bio's fine.
Mm.
Seems cool." But I got smoked in all my classes, like absolutely decimated.
All right.
In in one of the bio classes, I got 43% on the midterm, and I was like, "Wow, that's not good."
Not great.
It's
No.
it's also because I didn't know, because in SAGEP, a lot of times they based all the tests on the textbook. No, they based it all on the lectures.
Yeah.
So I
and-
didn't even watch the lectures. I just read the recommended reading. So I got smoked.
Yeah.
I ended up by
I've realized that the other way by the second year of university and stopped buying the textbooks. They're like, here's
oh
your
yeah, I,
$500 worth of
I
textbooks.
completely stopped.
Yeah.
But before that, I didn't. And by the final, I pulled it up. But halfway through that semester, I was so disillusioned, and I was like, I hate bio. Screw this program. So I looked at some biochem stuff, and I was like, that's it. I was like, biochem seems cooler. So I just switched the next semester.
Nice.
Actually, I remember now. It's because of my lab class. The TA made me so angry that I dropped the entire program.
That's amazing, the effect that one person can have on
I was also hating everything because I had such a bad average.
Yeah, maybe it's just the straw that breaks the camel's back if you got
Yeah,
one.
so I dropped that class and just quit.
Wow. And then so then you went into biochem.
Yeah, and the thing is, because again, I wanted to go into med, so I liked chem, but I wanted to go into med. Actually, I always liked the idea of chem. I never was like really that into chemistry.
I'm not in love with chemistry. I'm in love with the idea of chemistry.
I just thought organic chem was cool. That was it.
Me too. I just can't. I just realized
I didn't even do well in it, and in SAGEP, I didn't even do well. But I did all of biochem, which I am more personally interested in biochem than I am in chemistry. I don't actually. Hopefully, yeah. It's like I don't care too much about chemistry. I'll say it like
interesting.
that. Interesting
For one of the largest chemistry channels on YouTube.
Yeah, no, it's like I don't intrinsically care about chemistry in the sense that if someone's like, "Hey, did you know they just discovered that?" And they just tell me about a chemical phenomenon, I'll be like, "Okay." Like I don't just hear it and feel like an innate interest.
Like your interest is in like doing this stuff for yourself.
Yeah, like well, no, it's like what can it do? Not even for me, just like what can it do is what I'm interested in. Whereas like biochem, I'm interested in the theory of it alone. So it's like I like reading about diseases. I like reading about like how the medications worked. Because I did biochem with a minor in pharmacology, and I liked pharmacology actually more than I don't know. They're probably about equal. But I like that theory. Whereas like the chem theory, I'm just like, if people like there's classes I took where they just teach you a bunch of reactions. I'm like, I don't really care unless I know why I care about
it's you don't want to just be an encyclopedia of things that molecules do to each other.
Yeah, like I don't really find it like an innate interest in knowing that.
What are the principles of pharmacology? Like
Pharmacology,
if you had to broad stroke, like here's what we actually talk about and study.
In my mind, it's applied physiology is what I would like say. Okay. So like physiology, because I had to take physiology classes, they kind of would just be like, this is your heart. This is how it works. These are your lungs. These are how they work. This is your kidney. This is how urine is produced. I liked that info, but it was kind of, there's no application side to it. It's kind of just know it.
Okay.
It's one level up, I would say,
Yeah,
from
which is
anatomy.
it's important
You're
to know
just
it.
like learning names.
Yeah.
They're not. I'm not saying it's not important.
Well, you have to know it if you want to get to the next step of manipulating it.
And so pharmacology was kind of okay, knowing the physiology of the heart, how can we manipulate it to fix a disease condition?
Right.
So they're like knowing that like this whatever the classic like high blood pressure is caused by or has to do with this system. Can we design a drug that hijacks that system to alter your blood pressure? So to me, it was always, I saw the applied and relevant side of things. So I liked it quite a bit more than just learning the physiology of stuff.
Is there a lot of theoretical pharmacology, like in terms of, okay, we we know the whole system and we know exactly the piece that we're trying to tweak and affect this particular cascade? Or is it more like we just, is there a lot of like blind space where this chemical works, but we have no idea why, but we're going to try similar chemicals?
So it's fun. So here's the thing. I did pharmacology 6 years ago.
Okay.
And 6.5 years ago. So
I keep asking you about things of your in your
well, no,
long
I'll say
past,
like
but...
I remember a lot of it, surprisingly. So it's like obviously I couldn't, if I took a test, I would fail.
Yeah, me too. Any course that I took in
but I liked it,
university.
so I remember a lot. So to answer your question, it's a mix. So like it comes down to like in pharmacology, how are you going to discover a drug? So there's two types of, I guess, two schools of thought. Go theoretically and be like, can we mathematically model a drug that should fit and have this effect on this enzyme or this system?
Right.
Or should we just try everything, regardless of what our thoughts are? And then just from the results we have, just keep trying things, like just complete shotgun method.
Yeah.
So they do both. And it's, I think the problem, they both have problems.
Well, I mean, the shotgun method sounds like you catch everything, but you have to spend a whole lot of resources.
So here's the thing: the shotgun method, I think, is better. I don't know if it's better, but at least when I was like learning it, they were more fruitful because of the way that I forget what it's called. I forget the exact term for it, but their machines came out and they would be able to do micro scale tests.
Okay.
And on like massive assays, so they could test thousands of chemicals. So what they would do is they just put an enzyme with a bunch of stuff and they would just blast it with a million different chemicals. And then based on what worked, they would just then either make a bajillion derivatives of those and then try that. But it works pretty, like, I don't know. It's
okay. So it's almost like an evolutionary algorithm. Like you
kind of
one that kind of works and then you tweak it a whole bunch of different ways and you try all of those.
The problem with it is it's so, like you said, it's complete blind work effect. It's not completely blind, but it's more or less blind. But the benefit, I'll actually explain the other part too. The problem with the other part where you design everything beforehand is the problem is that our models don't explain everything.
Right.
So it's like the classic model is like the lock-in key where they're like, you put, we see the catalytic pocket of the enzyme and we're going to put some sort of chemical, we're going to model it so it can do this effect. It doesn't work. It works a lot of times, but it just doesn't work sometimes. Or they have other drugs that should work in a certain way, but they don't. And it's like, it means that there's certain things that you could never discover, or you put all your time into doing this computational stuff and it just has problems anyway.
Yeah.
So I think the actual solution is just a mix of the both. Like you just kind of do shotgun method and really, calculated stuff. But I think the biggest thing, at least when I was learning about it, was trying to figure out, just like refine the models to figure out how you could be more computationally and, predictively accurate, because that is obviously going to be better.
Well, it's like it either they might be doing almost the same thing, right? It depends how the algorithms of the models work, but like it's It's one of those things where, like, I don't know, there's some instances, like if you're designing a bridge and you have to see whether it works, it takes a whole lot of effort to build 1,000 bridges and then keep the one that stays up, right? You really want to simulate
Yes.
it first. But if you're able to do these, micro things, then you've got, you've got a computer with infinite computational resources. It's the actual world. And then, you know,
I just looked up the thing. I remember now. It was high throughput screening.
okay.
But it was kind of one of those weird things that it's like once the technology came to be that they could just shotgun method, they started doing it. But I don't think that many drugs have been discovered. Like there haven't been that many great discoveries from that method.
Well, but I mean but also the simulation stuff has to be pretty recent too. So like previously,
It's
how have we been discovering drugs? Just accident?
the problem now is that as just like how it works with chem. I remember when I was working in the lab, it was a really funny conversation. Everyone was like, I miss the good old days when you could just smoke in your fume hood and if you discover and just mixing two chemicals together was a discovery.
So
because
like
people
it just
called,
hadn't been mapped. There was a lot of like low hanging fruit.
Yeah, so people called, I think it was the 70s or 80s, they'd always say it was like the golden years of chem because it's the years when NMR and all like the I think NMR came out around then, like mass produced, like the ability for everyone to be able to use it. I could be wrong though. But
and NMR, because I'm not a chemist, but NMR is just really good at identifying what chemicals you have.
So in the good old days, so let's say like in the late 1800s, even
good old days,
we don't even know. As like PhD chemists were sitting there like, how did they figure this out? It was like to figure out what a molecule was, you just did a million reactions and narrowed down how its structure was.
Wow.
And like, for example, the guy Fisher for sugars would be like, what sugar is this? Well, he found out a thing called, I don't know if it's called Fisher degradation or something, where he figured out a way to sequentially chop a carbon off the sugar.
Okay.
So he figured out how to differentiate between 6 carbon sugars, 5 carbon sugars, and to know their 3D orientation and stuff. But it's all just by like random reactions. You kick off a CO2, I think, and then measure how much CO2 you got, and you're like, okay, I kicked off 1 carbon. It was just like crazy.
Yeah. And spontaneous insight, like benzene was literally thought up in a dream, right? It's like that's the thing that you always use as the meme of like, I don't know how it works. This came to me in a dream. It literally did.
It was just crazy. People they would come up with 3D structures of stuff, and you're like, how? But they would just do random reactions that would just narrow it down to only one option. But NMR to me is like kind of cheating.
Okay.
Nowadays, it's not cheating. It's just the ease of use is stupid. Like I needed to find out. I had to do a lot of like full chemical. It's still really hard. Like if you have to characterize a large 3D molecule, it's really hard.
But I have zero sense of how that works, of how you turn like an NMR spectrum into a 3D shape.
Oh, you just learn how to read it. Okay. So like the thing is, I've only ever done 2D NMRs. So I don't see any 3D. So I'm not able to. I never actually got far enough to learn how to do like stereo stuff. So like knowing where stuff is in 3D space. But it was when I had to do like chemical analysis to find out a chemical I made. To me, I was just like, in the good old days, it took you like months of random reactions. What I did was I filled a little NMR tube, put it in the machine, just said, run every test.
Okay. I
come back the next day. It's emailed to me. I don't even have to go. Nice. And then I pick it up when I feel like it. And one of the things was, I think if I remember correctly, it's depth carbon NMR. So it literally, the way that it does it with the magnetic field, it pulses it in a way that just on the NMR sheet that you get, the carbons that you pulsed in a certain way will be flipped. So just by looking at it, you can know which peaks correspond to which, like the carbon, if it's a quaternary carbon. So if it has like 4 substituents, or if it's connected to if it's connected to 3 other carbons, 4 other carbons, or 3 or 2 or 1, you can just look at it. And then from that, you can build your carbon skeleton. And it's
Like
to me,
it gives you like a map readout of here's where these carbons are.
well, I just got like all the stuff, and you'd look at it and go, okay, from this, I know I have 2 carbons that are connected to 2 other carbons, 2 carbons that are connected to 1 carbon,
Ah,
2 that are connected to 3. And I know basically kind of the reaction that I started with. And you could just draw your carbon skeleton almost. If it's a relatively simple molecule, you could just draw your carbon skeleton from it because there's almost only maybe a couple options.
okay. Yeah, you take all those
And then you
pieces
run
and-
your hydrogen NMR.
Mhm.
And based on the hydrogen NMR, you can tell some other things and it'll just eliminate one of them. And you're like, okay, this is my carbon skeleton. Like, this is the basic skeleton of my molecule. And it took a day.
Sweet.
If it's a simple molecule. If it's not a simple molecule, it can take like a really long time and do multiple tests.
Yeah, because
But
the
it was
information
like-
that you can get from how many of each type of bond are there will work if
It
you
could get really
if you've got 1 or
complicated.
2 of each. But if it's like here, there are 50 carbons that are bonded to other carbons.
But and you
gonna
start
tell you
doing
much.
3D stuff and like, but it's kind of crazy. Like if you just found a white powder, like in my lab,
Mhm.
I could just run an NMR and run an hydrogen NMR and carbon NMR, and probably within like not even 30 minutes, 20 minutes, just because I've done it in so long, I can just tell you what it was. Whereas like in the past, it would be like, I was going to do a video on this. It would take weeks probably of just random tests. If you had no clue what it was,
Because you just had to probe it with various chemical reactions.
well, you just measure its melting point, you measure its boiling point, you measure what it can dissolve in. Like you figure out what it can dissolve in, what its solubility values are, if it burns.
Hmm.
Like you just do everything, and then you have to like make a table and try to figure out what's part like, and then react it with other stuff and go, oh, I think it has this part in it. It's a mess. But it was a huge tangent. But the reason I mentioned it was it opened up a crazy amount of ability for people to just do research.
Mm,
Because if you did a reaction and you know what you made, just run an NMR,
right.
right? You don't have to sit there and spend like weeks trying to figure it out or prove. You just NMR. And it's like, oh, I made this. And there's like a lot of other analytical techniques that came out that just let chemistry kind of explode.
Hmm.
I haven't
And
really looked too much into it. That was just like what we'd always talk about in the lab.
So that was like in the
What did they do?
70s that happened.
I don't actually. This is just something I'm thinking about it now. It's just something we talked about a lot, but
Yeah,
I've never actually looked this up.
There's a lot of I mean in physics there's a lot like that too. There's like lore that you learn as a physicist. There are stories that people tell about your field.
Yeah,
And like
but sometimes they're not even true.
yeah, a lot of the time they end up being like pretty big simplifications of the truth. Like that it's a story that's been simplified to the point where you can fit it into like the beginning of a lecture. But it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily have a problem with that. Like it's a problem if someone like gets shafted in the story that someone was really important that didn't get in or whatever.
But I said
But-
there's a comment here saying, I doubt you'd be immediate. I don't know if he's responding to somebody or if it's just me. I doubt you'd be immediately informed, but look on Twitter, there's a lot of scientists always dropping new literature. So I should qualify and say, it's not that nobody's making new discoveries and that new discoveries aren't possible. Like
Yeah.
I'm not at all like saying that. And there's still so much to discover. And it always triggers me when my friend is like, everything's been discovered. I'm like, if you say that, then you
No, that's
gotta learn a bit more.
That's much more true of physics than it is of chemistry.
But
But it's not true of
that,
physics either.
No, it's not. I think of any field, it's not true. It's just that it just becomes so much more specialized
Yeah.
in that your discovery is not. I'm looking back in the literature. It's hilarious when the person's like, this gas seems to cause wood to burn brighter. I'm gonna call it oxygen. It's like in those days, it was just like in the scientific revolution, it was insane the amount of discoveries that people were making because you could just look at anything and almost discover something.
Well, they were. I mean, they were.
Now it's so specialized. Like what I was doing was inorganic catalysis. So like palladium catalysis in organic frameworks for organic one-pot reactions.
One pot means you do it all in one
So-
beaker.
In one shot. Yeah, you mix
Okay.
we mix like multiple reagents in one shot, and then you have a palladium coordinated like a palladium catalyst. Well, that's coordinated with an organic framework around it to catalyze a one pot reaction. And we were specifically trying to make one type of molecule. The lab I was in, he makes a lot of great discoveries, and they do really good work. And some of the stuff is like really impressive, but it's like it's not the same as, like I said, going back to like the 1900s, where people were discovering these fundamental reactions.
Right. But
That
I mean,
just-
it was a real revolution. They were getting this whole new framework of, okay, it's not alchemy. What is the world made of, right? It's like, oh, wait a second, the entire world is made of chemicals. Let's go and
Yeah.
look at anything and try to figure it out, right?
That's the thing. They were
Yeah.
just, there's discoveries to be made left, right, and center. Whereas now it's like everything's so specialized. But I think that when NMR came out, it revolutionized stuff a lot. But since then, things have branched out, just like, I say NMR, but like a lot of other analytical techniques and other, like obviously just developments in general, caused it to get so much more specialized. So now it feels like making like a big discovery is so much more difficult. Like one as impactful as I'm talking about like the fundamental ones.
Yeah. But they're like I wonder about specialization in like in academia generally, because I feel like it's like you can maybe pin it on particular things in particular fields, but if you zoom out, you can see the broad like the broad truth of specialization has happened everywhere, right? And like it may be for similar reasons that we've just been doing science long enough that we've, like there's not room anymore for someone to run in like Einstein and discover 5 new revolutionary things in 1 year.
I mean, the reason that he's well known is because he was obviously an exception.
Yeah.
To...
But it's also like, I don't know, because it's also the case that what Einstein did was to like read enough from a whole bunch of different places that he was like putting stuff together. Like a lot of the stuff, he was like a connection maker. There were people, right, like Michelson and Morley had done this experiment about how the speed of light didn't change depending on your direction, and it was super weird and nobody got it. And like Maxwell had done things with Maxwell's equations that you could like, it was there to be found, but it took like a connection maker. And that's the thing that I worry about with or maybe not worry about, but I wonder if we're gonna see, or if we can get like a push to the other direction, because I feel like there's so much in the, like with everybody knowing everything about a very small pocket. Probably the big discoveries are to be made like bridging those connections between, I don't know, like even within different parts of chemistry probably, but like between physics and medicine, and between geology and psychology. I don't know like where these connections are.
I totally agree with you. And I find that, yes, definitely as people get more specialized, you kind of lose those connections.
Yeah.
So you end up, everyone kind of gets even more separated.
Like
I want to say
one
one
can
thing
see
though.
it. Yeah.
Somebody mentioned X-ray crystallography, so I looked it up. Apparently,
Okay.
it was discovered in like it says on Wiki, like the early 1900s. That was also obviously an insanely powerful technique.
Early 1900s.
Which is both used in bio, like is incredibly important in bio and what's it called, chem.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that old, because like
when it says NMR is from the 40s and 50s, it was discovered and people got the Nobel Prize in 52.
Okay.
But at the time, I'm sure if you're getting the Nobel Prize in 52, it's not like globally used everywhere yet.
But like, because DNA
pretty
was,
old.
The structure of DNA was worked out with X-ray crystallography.
Yeah, and that wasn't even that long ago.
Yeah,
that's
and
like, I think the crazy
was
part.
under the impression that it was a very new technology then, but maybe
Well,
it
the
just
thing
needed
is-
a lot of.
The thing is, I think if you look up, for example, like LCDs, they were discovered, I think, in the 60s. I can look it up.
Like LCD displays.
Not just the concept of a liquid crystal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the background is in 1888 they discovered the chemical, and it was in the 60s that a guy working at RCA discovered. It says that like he could achieve making colors with them.
Interesting. It takes It takes
But that's the
50
whole
years
point.
for
It's
it
like
to come into technology.
Yeah, but people knew that they existed. What I did want to say too was, because you're talking about like the specializations, one thing that I found particularly, I guess, interesting and kind of sad at the same time is what's kind of weird is that as we get more and more in depth about our knowledge, I say mostly because I'm more knowledgeable about chem. The biggest thing is that I said that there weren't that many discoveries. We don't hear about a lot of them. So a lot of the major discoveries are industrial ones. So to
Okay.
be able to produce certain chemicals more efficiently, you don't hear about them. You just never do. Because why would you care that styrene is now 10% more efficient than it was 5 years ago?
Do they get
I'm making
published
that
somewhere?
up,
Like
but
could someone
sorry?
go and look at that, or is there a lot
Oh,
of also like
they're
industrial secret patented, like
so
this is walled off
they
kind of stuff?
are a lot of times they're kept kind of secret,
Hmm.
but they're also semi-public because they're all developed by the major like Dow, all the major chemical companies.
Yeah.
But it's like some of them were pretty. There's a few major discoveries, but what I think is kind of sad is the idea that as we've gone along, we discover more and more, and we get more specialized. And one of the biggest things that we're getting in chem now are just catalysis. Back in the good old day, it was just mix stuff and go. But the big rage now is like catalysis and
see
like
how
catalysis
that's all about efficiency.
nanoparticles and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, just to like maximize efficiency.
Yeah.
But all the processes become super, super, I guess, unattainable for the average person or the average small scale. Cause they'll be like, oh, we found that they're always trying to make it low pressure and low temperature. But sometimes they'll be like, we have this very specialized catalyst that you could never feasibly make yourself. And
It's like some sort of nano web structure or whatever.
Whole catalyst bed is super crazy. Yeah, it's like super specialized to make, but it made the process way better. So they abandoned the old one.
Okay.
But the big thing is that old one replaced an older one and it goes down a chain. But the original reaction that was made to make that chemical was a pretty robust and easily accessible one. So a lot of times they'll be like, how did you make this dye? And people are like, oh, we mixed these two common chemicals. But as they industrially replaced it, every new textbook that came out, they only would put like maybe one or two of the older ones. And then maybe it used to be made this way. But the process is just lost to time.
So when you're trying to go back and read and do
I can't
these
do
interesting
it.
reactions, you've got to go and find
the
old sources of people who were still working in like one person.
Well, like one of them was cyanotyping because like blueprinting. The moment blueprinting was replaced, nobody published books with it anymore. So
what's
everyone
cyanotyping?
Blueprinting.
Okay, like just printing blue,
making blueprints.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like they just kind of people just stopped talking about it. So even there's one to uranotyping. So it uses uranium.
Interesting.
The only source I found for it was a book a guy sent me from like, I think 1890 or like 1910 or something, because no one else talks about it. No one really has a purpose for it. So this information kind of just gets, I mean, that's just because no one uses it, but also there's some other processes that just got replaced over time. And they were so kind of specific to make that one chemical that when they found a better method, they just abandoned it. And again, the cyanotyping, I was trying to make the precursor chemical for it. And I had to follow a paper from like, I think like 1800s.
Nice.
Because it's the only source that I could find on it.
Yeah. That's like, maybe that's part of the, because I feel like there's a way that there's a little bit of a hole in like I feel like good YouTube chemistry took a longer time to come up, and that's like the niche that you've really filled. Is like, I don't know, I feel like back in the day, I don't know, physics took over YouTube first, I think, like in the kind of educational space, like minute physics and like physics and math. And the reason is because it's super easy to do on an extremely low production budget, and like everyone can do it. If for theoretical stuff, you draw on a piece of paper and you're good. You just need a good idea. And then, like, I don't know, I feel like bio was quicker to the game. Like even now, I feel like there's a dearth of real like high quality informative chemistry stuff. Like if I
definitely, yeah.
And I'm finding that it's a hole in my knowledge because I never was really into chemistry already. And for a lot of the time, like I don't know. I feel like I would love to have more resources explaining to me the principles, I don't know, like the framework principles behind chemistry. Because when I try to look into it, it's like, well, there's lots of reactions that someone's showing you. Like, here's how this particular reaction works. but it's like, I don't know. It's very easy to get lost in the weeds, right? It's like, are you going to show me every type of
Yeah,
reaction that exists, or are you going to show me how I might go about thinking about chemistry
that's
as a field, you know?
and
I
that's
feel like
something
I'm
that
sort of lacking that.
I've thought about a lot. So my brother and I, one reason why, or one major thing that he was supposed to do, and we will do it eventually, is we want to make a chemistry course because
Mm,
I hate how it's taught, like
okay.
in very short, because I feel, especially in chemistry, like how you mentioned how physics is the most accessible, I find that in the field specifically of chemistry, it's kind of gone in the way that it's not I don't know, it's the weird thing is it seems to be something that only exists in academia.
Yeah.
So it's like there's this artificial barrier between the average person and chemistry. And I felt it really a lot when I was in chemistry, especially when I started the channel. I remember when I stopped being a lab tech, I was like, I'll just never do chemistry again because you can't do chemistry on your own.
Yeah.
Even though I had done it before on my own, not really thinking that it was chemistry. Um, it's just this weird thing where they go, no, you can only do chemistry, like practical chem, if you're in an academic setting.
Mm,
And I think that I don't know why that's the case. I think one big thing that I should say is that chemistry, and I'm releasing a safety video soon that I kind of talk
yeah.
about
I
it.
was gonna say, like,
I
safety is
think
an aspect of
is
this.
the most dangerous applied science.
Yeah.
So I understand why there should be a fear around it, but it shouldn't be that you feel you can only experience any level of chemistry if you take a course or go to school.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it seems to be. And then when you do that, they just kind of shovel knowledge and info on you. And like you said, you're kind of like, why am I learning this? What's the point? Where is this going? Why is this even interesting? They kind of just like throw it at you. Whereas other sciences like physics and I even felt in bio, they try to get you to appreciate why it's valuable. But in chem, it's kind of just like, here. And then that's why I didn't like it that much. I did
Yeah.
not like chemistry until I started doing it.
Well, I feel like it's kind of a, like, to me it's this middle, it's like this middle science that maybe, I don't know, in
Chemistry is not a mid. Oh, it is a middle science. It
no, like,
bleeds into everything
well,
else.
like, it's yeah, but it's kind of in the weeds of the middle ground of, like, you go to physics, you can go all the way to like the ultimate simplicity. And if you go to biology, there's kind of like you get kind of like a phase change where you have a new grounding, right? Like, you can build it on real, like, you can build it on like the first principles of like Darwinian theory,
Hmm.
and on like I don't know, sort of the standard story about DNA replication and
Hmm.
transcription and production and whatever. There's like a very simple framework that, like, these things, you will have a really good sense, and then you can spur off into all the little details and check and exceptions or whatever. In chemistry, I don't know a story to tell about
So,
it as a field.
so I was gonna say that as you're saying that, it made me think of something. I feel like when you learn physics and bio, they answer questions that you had
Mm,
innately. Being like in bio, going, "Oh, I don't understand why that grows. How does a plant work? How does
yeah,
this?" Like you had these questions, or physics. Why does this like ball move like that? Why would this spin like that? It answers fundamental questions, whereas chemistry doesn't answer. It answers. I mean, early chem it does, but I find that I never really found that it answered much of anything until I
mm,
really started learning about it myself. I never really felt, oh, that's really interesting. It and appreciated the knowledge I learned. It was kind of just stuff.
I don't know,
And
and like that's, I don't
well, I
know.
was going to say that
Yeah.
I
Go ahead.
only liked chem after I did it and didn't realize I was doing chemistry.
Mm.
So, what I mean by that was before the channel, I got really into spicy stuff.
Spicy?
Ironically, I can't eat spicy stuff anymore at
Oh, like
all.
literally like spicy food.
Yeah, yeah. So
You're not
because
using this as a
it
metaphor for
ruins my
like,
stomach.
uh,
No, no, just spicy stuff. So I went
okay,
through a phase where I'm like, if it's not spicy, there's no point in eating it.
okay,
And then I was like, I got to get the spiciest thing possible. So I'm like, that's pure capsaicin,
yeah,
right? So then I started looking into trying to extract the spice, which is why early on the channel there's spice extractions. Those videos I showed, I'd done it before at home.
Okay.
This is before I was even a lab tech, because my goal was to just try to taste the spiciest thing possible. And I ran into all these problems, and I found myself going online to try to solve them. And I never did. So I plan now to actually revisit it and solve my initial issue.
You never got your pure capsaicin out of the peppers?
No, but that's my dream now. I'm working on it.
Why would you desire to experience the most pain possible?
I don't anymore, but I feel like it's something I have to do to resolve the thing, my goal of years ago.
Man, did you ever watch those like pepper taster videos? You ever get into that?
No, I never saw it.
I feel like Hot Ones is kind of like codified it now, but back in the day there were all these like Ted Barris, the fire breathing idiot, and these kind of people.
I probably watched them. I was so, dude, I would.
It's just like I'm gonna eat these like 3 Maruga scorpions and see what happens, and then you just watch this guy like dying for 20 minutes.
I learned not to do that after it all started too. It's like, yo, I'm just gonna eat a habanero. So I just ate a habanero. Then I was like, wow, that was just bad on my stomach. So from then on, I spat the habanero out.
Okay.
I would never.
Oh, you were just taking it for the pain and nothing else.
To experience it. But either way, I didn't know it was all chem. Like doing all the extractions, then being like, how do I separate it from the water? Trying to come up with all these methods. I heard that maybe if you add a bit of like, if you dissolve it in ethanol, then add water, you might be able to knock the capsaicin out.
Okay.
But then it was always stuck mixed with the pigment beta carotene. I just wanted capsaicin. I didn't care about like the chemistry of it, but they were just tools to get me to what I wanted.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's like, then the second thing I did was I decided that I want to make benzocaine, because I'd never experienced, at the time it wasn't easy to get local anesthetics.
Okay.
And I really just wanted a local anesthetic to mess around with.
Okay.
So it was just like a tool to kind of get me to somewhere that I didn't think I could get otherwise. And then after I started doing that for a while, I was like, oh, hey, that is what chemistry is.
Interesting.
And that's when I started appreciating it much more.
You're like you seem like almost more than a scientist. You feel like a novel experience chaser. Like even with the way that you think about making these videos, it's like I'm looking for something interesting.
Yes.
Okay. That's great. I don't know. I'm kind of that. Have you ever been like tested and or diagnosed for like ADHD or anything like that?
No, but I'm like, I always just say I'm sure I haven't.
Yeah, that's what I say too, because I've never had that. But like a lot of the things you're talking about, like the chasing strange novel experiences and the inability to study until the exact last moment and then cramming everything, that's still how I live my life. Like with my videos now, it's like, oh, I am running out of money. Now I will do 90% of the work to make this video.
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually put the videos off of editing, because I actually like the editing stuff if I do it slowly, so I don't put it off. But I definitely, I was going to say, I've never listened in a class ever. I've never sat in a class and listened ever.
I used to bring science fiction books to my university math courses.
I just
read them under the table.
I was gonna say, I just didn't show up.
I was too conscientious for that. I can't just not show up. I was like, or rather, in my first year, I was too conscientious for that. I was never so unconscientious that I would skip. I don't know why.
It's not skipping.
Or like,
I have the recorded lecture. What's the point?
For somehow I had this drive to always show up, but I did sleep through every single one of my classes. Like I would just show up, put my head on my desk, bam.
Yeah,
at the end.
I did that too. I like the recorded lectures. I would often, later I had to attend and they weren't recorded. So I'd record them and go to sleep. But I couldn't listen to them unless they were at 2 times speed.
I have to admit I've done that with a few of your videos. I'll put your
speed?
Yeah, I'll put your videos on at double speed.
Jesus.
Because I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna cram it. Just cram
I felt
it in.
like I already spoke too quickly and you're doing 2 times speed.
You don't speak too. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I actually find your pace, like your speed of speaking is really nice to listen to. Like it's calm. It's like, I don't know, it's a similar sort of thing to, like, I wouldn't put you on like 3 Blue 1 Brown levels of calming where like you can actually go to sleep listening to him. But like it's really nice. I don't know how you perfected that, but it's good.
I
But
mean, I pay
if
a
you're busy
lot of
and you just want to
attention.
cram information, it's
I
good.
pay a lot of attention to like how fast I speak,
Mm,
and it's like to the point where I think it's a bit obsessive.
yeah.
So I'll be editing and I'm like, whoa, that clip was way too fast. So I'll go in
Interesting.
the little editor and I'll go slow down from 100% to 99% speed.
You
Oh,
actually
no, I'm like extend duration to 101%. I'm
you
like,
actually extend your voice out.
I rarely do it, but it's like there's a few times where I was like, whoa, that's too fast. And I literally put it to 101 or 102. I'm like, okay, that's good. I'm like, is it just placebo at that point? Or do I actually hear a difference between a 1% slower?
Yeah, you can get used to that, and to a
I think it's
particular
just
rhythm
when you're
and
editing
cadence of
so
your
much,
editing. Yeah.
you just get so used to hearing exactly how fast you're speaking.
I also lose perspective though when I'm editing. Like you need
Oh,
like you have to get the fine details in place that you really wanted, and then go away for like a day and come back
well,
and see the broad picture and then see if it still makes sense. Because once you get
I
into
ma-
the weeds of
you
one
yeah.
transition for half an hour, you don't know what it looks like anymore.
My safety video that,
Mm.
like I said, is supposed to be put out. I watched it for the first time yesterday. It's
Mm.
been made for 2 weeks
Okay.
because I was so sick of making it. It was more work. It's going on the second channel. It was more work than a main channel video
Oh.
for all the like the B-roll footage I needed. I rendered it. And then I was like, is this even coherent? Because I went back and refilmed certain sections, re-edited, reworded stuff, changed things, and you're moving sections around. And I was like, I've never looked this over. I just individually know that the transition that I edited is okay. But
Man.
is this even remotely coherent? And like I watched it yesterday and I'm always surprised and I'm like, whoa, there's mistakes, but there's like, it's like, okay. Like the aerogel video, I did it was 40 whatever minutes it was. I had never watched it once, even
Man.
a section of it. It was all done in like 20-second increments.
Yeah. Do you
And
have
when it was done, I was like, how did this video even begin? I don't even know what it like. I just was like,
I've been doing this for so long. I know it came together. It's a good video.
But it's like when I watched it, I'm like, oh my God, it's shockingly coherent.
Well, I mean, if you ever want to send something over to me and like have me vet it,
Yeah, I can do that.
like John and I have started doing that. Like John just sent me his new video for he's doing one on microscopes. He's like, here, brutally critique my physics, because I've done that. Like my safety blanket for that a little bit is my patrons, because I always release stuff on Patreon first.
That's actually something that I've always thought too. It's like, if there's any patrons of mine here, they're gonna go, what? No, it's like the biggest value for Patreon was always having just it's an instant like peer review, basically. They'll point out errors, say if something was weird, say they didn't like something. Like it's such a good resource.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's nice to have that and to have it from people that like you like.
They're also
they're going to be nice. When they're going to pay close attention.
And give actual feedback. But I'm saying I feel bad because they're paying me to provide me with a service of feedback. And I'm always like, you're paying me to provide feedback? And I always felt kind of weird. I was like, I should be paying other people to critique it, not getting paid to have it critiqued. But I know that's all they're there for. But it's just like
there's a certain level of that I'm uncomfortable with. Like in the Discord, people had an idea of like there was someone. Are you here in the chat? I don't think so. I can't remember their username now. But someone made like a really good, just like album art for one of my songs. They were like, hey, I just made this. I hand drew it. It looks really cool. And it got this discussion going of like, hey, maybe we could like crowdsource all of Tim's album art and like do a contest or something. And like that I draw the line on. Like if I'm fine with like people can make all the fan art they want, but if I'm gonna like use your art to sell something, then I'm gonna like, email you, I'm gonna get a contract, and I'm gonna pay you for it,
and it's this weird thing that, and I've heard people talk about it before too. It's like it's the kind of a weird dynamic.
Oh, it was
where
Sophios.
You
Sophios is in the chat. Hello, Sophios. Yeah.
where
Yeah.
where you want to like
The person who
genuinely help
commented, "Let's
somebody.
burn diamonds to make carbonated water."
Like you genuinely want to help, but then it's like the
Yeah.
person feels bad that they're getting something for free, so they want to give something back. But you're like, no, that defeats me doing it completely for free because that's
Hmm.
my benefit is that I'm doing it completely out of the goodness of my heart.
Yeah.
But and I feel great not getting anything in return, but then the other person feels bad not giving anything, and it creates such
That's
a weird
weird.
little like dynamic.
Yeah. Oh, I think I accidentally pushed my audio to the left ear just now. Did you hear that? Because I was just like,
I didn't notice it actually.
I have some knobs that are that can control where the audio goes. But actually it might not come through on because I might have a mono channel going to you.
You have too many knobs.
But I've got a couple. The problem is not only do I have a bunch of different knobs that are doing various things, but when I'm talking, I'm always fidgeting. Every time I talk to anybody, I'm like fiddling with stuff, and like people will see one of my really annoying habits is that when I'm critiquing my own videos, I'll be like talking and absentmindedly tracing like shapes on the paused video with my mouse. Just in it's like weird, like, oh, there's the outline of my head over and over again, and no one's commented on it yet, but I'm sure it's somewhat annoying. But I just need something to do while I speak, so I was probably just fiddling with the thing here. I don't know. It's 4:50. We have a thing that we do here on the channel where we always have like a theme song that we end with.
Okay.
And generally I'd like build up a little thing and then sing about what we've talked about, or like sing about science or whatever.
Okay.
So
But I actually have one thing to say before you do
okay, yeah, go for it.
It's kind of sad. I never answered the guy's question about biochem and chemistry.
Okay. Yeah, do that then. Do that.
I don't remember what his question was. We went on such a tangent.
question was, why did you pick biochem instead of chem? I think that was the whole thing, right?
So I guess like it was such a long-winded tangent.
Like,
but
I think you got there.
Basically, the answer I'll summarize it. Hated bio. Wanted something still in the medical field because I wanted to go into medicine, so I went into biochem. Because I found that it was one that was the most interesting, and then I decided not to go to medicine. So when I graduated from biochem, I was like, oh, I like chemistry because I started doing those like little experiments on my own.
Yeah.
And my friend offered me a job as a lab tech. So then I went into chemistry and got a lot more experience and knowledge there. But it's not that I chose biochem over chem. I just never ever was an option in my mind to choose anything but something in the medicinal field.
Okay. Yeah.
I just wanted to answer that because I felt terrible. It's a huge tangent. We never got to.
That's okay. It's all about.
I don't even. Are they even still here?
I don't know who asked that question. If you asked that question, let me know in the chat. Also, Catherine, thanks for the $1.49. I appreciate it.
Okay, he got it. He only had to wait 45 minutes for the answer.
Yeah. I've like. So you wanted to be a doctor. I mean, now I'm thinking about this, but like, it's weird. It was weird to me in CEGEP. Everyone wanted to be a doctor in my program. Like everyone who was doing science was like,
health, though, right?
I'm gonna be a doctor. I'm gonna be a doctor. I'm gonna be a doctor. And I never felt that drive myself. Like, I don't know. Like, what was it for you? Was it like patient care? Was it that's like a really cool job, or?
To be honest, it took me a while to figure it out, and I still don't really know. But I like things that are, I guess, high stakes, fast paced, and require just quick paced knowledge. So, for example, if I was a doctor, the only option ever I wanted to be was an ER doctor.
Okay,
that was the only position that I wanted, because I mean, if I'd become one, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I'd be working at the hospital.
Yes, you would be in complete crisis mode at the moment.
Yeah, but that was all I wanted to do. And what hijacked that was doing the chemistry and realizing that I could get the same feel, I guess, like requiring the knowledge, having to apply it, and then when you're doing a reaction, you have to quickly change what you're doing often if it's something new. And I found that kind of satisfied that realm, but then it added the whole realm of creativity that you wouldn't get as much with a doctor. Like I
Interesting.
realized how much the creative part was important to me and being able to put these projects together. And as a doctor, it's like you're creative in your treatment plans, but you still have to follow. I mean, it can be you have to follow the rules of the universe.
No one,
But
I don't
it's
think
it's
many people appreciate a creative doctor.
no, it's not like, yeah, you don't have, and the stakes are also different. Where a guy comes in with a gunshot wound, and you're like, hey, today we're gonna do this, and then he dies. You're not gonna go, well, I guess that didn't work. Like the
Yeah.
stakes are a little bit. You don't have that leeway.
Yeah, for
And you don't
sure.
have nearly as obviously as much. You can do it, like, and if you go into research in medicine, you can definitely get it. But especially after experiencing research and feeling how slow and tedious it was, I just felt that YouTube and chemistry satisfied that a lot more.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I have a similar sort of thing, and I mostly satisfy it with music because
Mhm.
it's a spontaneous, creative, like flow. It's like a flow state thing, right? It's like I understand this, I'm good at it, but I'm also constantly switching it up and changing it, and
Yeah.
I'm discovering new things. Yeah, and like some people can really get that with the theoretical physics too, which was what my degree was in.
Mm.
But I never got to that state. For me, theoretical physics was a lot more plodding and struggling and being annoyed at everything, and a lot of thinking I had made a great discovery and then being proved very quickly that everything I had thought of had been tried a million times and failed.
Well, that's the
Um,
classic too. I was gonna say,
yeah.
I was actually gonna mention this, like just in general to somebody when I thought about it. It's those moments, and I have it a lot, where you do something and you're like, man, that was a genius idea. I can't wait to present that on video. Then
Hmm.
like either 10 minutes later or when you're editing, or you figure out, you're like, wow, it wasn't genius. And there's a reason why nobody does it. It's because it's actually just a terrible idea.
Turns out that a lot of smart people have tried a lot of
Yeah.
things.
And you're like, that was not, there's a reason no one uses that technique. You did not discover a new technique. It was not used for a reason.
Wow, but I mean, good on you for, like you're just you're kind of in this like wild west of your own making now that you
Yeah,
can
it's kind of, it's weird. When I think about it, it's weird.
I don't know. It's pretty cool though. Like it's I don't know. You have a job that you might be the only person who has your particular job. I think that's fair to say. And I don't know. At least that's somewhat
Just
new and
kind
interesting.
of making random stuff using chemistry.
Well, but it's not. It's a very complicated, multifaceted. There's lots of people making random stuff with chemistry, but you're like, you're also telling like you're taking everyone on your your like meandering process toward the discovery. And I think
Yeah.
that's the real drive, right? It's like people get to discover this thing with you.
Yeah. And I think it's just something that I've always had. I don't know. I've just always liked doing those projects since I was probably, I'd say like 11 or
Mm.
earlier. I just do these weird little projects.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I mean, somehow it turned into a what I do, but it is still pretty weird for me. Where, for example, I want to make superconductors, and I'm like, wow, I have the budget to buy the pieces to do it, and
Yeah, that's great.
it's like, what is it like? I'm not selling them. I'm just kind of, I have the ability to make these things that I think are kind of cool.
Well, I
So
think
like, I'm
yeah.
very appreciative of it. It's just when I sit and actually think about it, it is odd.
It is, but it's good. Like school, like I don't know, academia might reward creativity some of the time, but it's hard for it to get a foothold. Like there's zero correlation between like school grades and creativity, for example.
Well,
They
the
just don't
reason I
correlate at all.
left my research was
Mhm.
because I realized that.
Yeah.
It was when I spent a week working on something, and I'd go to my PI and I'd be like, "Hey, look at my discovery." He'd be like, "Okay, okay, run it again. I want to make sure that that's like true."
Yeah.
So you do that. You run it for another week. You show it to him. Okay, uh, try it with this chemical. We'll see if we get something slightly different. And it's like, it's just the job.
You
At the end
wanted
of
to
the
move
day, it's
on
like,
to your next crazy idea.
but at the same channel. And I was like,
Yeah.
within 2 days or 3 days, I could film something that I thought was really cool. Other people thought was cool. And I felt I could put a lot of personal effort into. And when I posted it online, it felt pretty rewarding. Whereas when I worked a week in the lab, the problem is I chose research I didn't like care about. That's
yeah.
I think the ultimate problem. But when I work a week in the lab and show it to the only person who's ever going to care about it, because no one in your lab actually cares except your supervisor.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Like, why would he's not going to sit there and be like, "You're amazing," unless you made some epic discovery. At the end of the day, I just ran a reaction several times.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't something that I did that was amazing, but the work has to be done. But it completely felt like I saw both the worlds, where I felt so much reward from YouTube and so little from what I was doing that I was like, I just can't do this.
Well, YouTube.
And they're both chemistry too, right? So it's not even like, because I would do my research during the day and then go home and do chemistry at night.
You were still working in your lab when you started the channel, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was like I just did chem all day, and when I completely saw the two different worlds, and I was like, oh. But I'm not saying that academia is bad. I think you just have to be very selective in what lab you choose, because I made a lot of friends who loved their research.
Yeah, but I think that
they really liked it.
Academia is really it's like the interests that would lead someone to academia are broader than the personality traits that would make you work in academia. And I think like a lot of us.
Okay, yeah.
Like a lot of us went into academia because we were like profoundly curious and wanted to know all the things that you could only get if you did like a degree or a 2 degrees or whatever. But we're not the person like us. I mean, educational YouTubers. We're not the type of personality that makes a good researcher. So now we've got all this knowledge, and we're exploding out doing whatever else with it.
Yeah,
but.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that because I don't want to like make it sound like I'm saying research is bad, because I don't do that.
Totally not.
I just think personally it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean, be aware that becoming a professor is really hard if you're going to go into research.
It's very hard. I mean, just in general, I mean, we were supposed to wrap up, but I would say that once I got into chem research, it was the first time ever that I realized like it's like how much work things are. Like university, like we said, I got destroyed when I went into university, but going into grad school made me realize it was the first time that I actually started to realize that if I didn't try as hard as I could, I would be the one who was like the people who you're always wondering, how did they get 20% in the class? How did they get 10%? Like, I was realizing that I was going to become the worst in the department. Like, you really have to work hard to try to be like on top.
Yeah.
If you're a
big fish,
so if you want to become
pond,
a professor or anything, you got to work really hard.
Yeah.
It's not something you get. You can't just coast.
You keep getting into classes where everyone was the top of their class.
Yes. And then you're like, oh God.
Yeah. You realize that this is people who are not just smart, but also have a work ethic.
Well, yes, exactly. So it's like when I remember when I was having to do presentations, and I'd be like, I feel so dumb.
Yeah.
Like, everyone around me was just like, they'd say stuff and you're like, oh my God, that's so smart. And you're just like, I can't deal with how good people are.
There's an element of imposter syndrome in that, right?
And it's funny because you speak to all of them and they all say they feel the same way, which is kind of funny. But it was interesting how you realize it's so much work, and my heart just wasn't in it. So I just kind of fell apart. But if you really are dedicated, then it is something that can be very rewarding.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I said that.
No, for sure. Like, they're
not bad.
One of the big realizations I had when I decided not to keep, because when I was doing my master's, I had a great professor named Alex Maloney, who's like string theorist, quantum gravity guy. And I asked him about he was always very upfront of what it was like to have a career in physics and how hard it was to be an associate professor and all these kinds of things. But like, when I asked him why do you do this, his answer was, this is the greatest job that I could imagine. Like, this is the most fun I could have. Like, I get to think about the most interesting problems every day and just come in and like work hard on them. And it's exactly what I want to do. That's why I'm doing it. And it was that realization that like he and like quite a few other people in my department had that, like, they loved
They
what
felt
they were
fully
doing. They
satisfied.
were like,
Yeah.
this is my place, and my struggle is that there might not be a place here for me.
Yeah.
Like that there's more of us than who want to be it than places. And
Mm.
my struggle was, I'm not sure if I want to do this, or I think I'd rather do something creative and musical and whatever. So seeing that
Yeah.
and like knowing, okay, I'm not like leaving this field without a mind that it needs. I'm actually like giving it to the people who
Yeah.
it belongs to.
Well, you're just
You know?
doing it in a different way.
Yeah.
Like I said, again, when I was in grad school, in my lab, we had somebody who was kind of similar. She went into research, she liked it, but she ultimately wanted to teach. So
Yeah.
it's like and specifically, I think she wanted to teach high school, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And it's like, but that's why she wanted her master's degree.
Mm.
But it's like, if you were to climb your ranks in research, you'd never like satisfy that. So it's like you have to just figure out exactly what your end goal is. And like you said, there's some people who they just love research and everything they're doing, and that's great. But for me and you,
yeah, we're a very biased sample when it comes to whether
Yeah.
you should stay in academia, because you're only going to watch the people who are not too busy doing,
exactly
doing reactions and making
who
discoveries to
didn't,
be on the internet.
Yes, the ones who didn't stay is who you hear about.
Yeah, I mean, go find some people who did. But like even like I talked to Sally LePage a couple weeks ago, and she
Who?
like do you know her? She's evolution YouTuber from the UK.
No, I don't.
She
actually.
she did like for a very long time while she was doing YouTube. She was also doing a PhD in like Drosophila and their behavioral patterns and whatever. But even now, you ask her. Like I asked her, do you recommend that people do a PhD? And she said, nope. I think and it makes sense because after her PhD, she didn't go and do more research. She decided, I'm going to be a full-time YouTuber. That's where she found her home. So
yeah, but it's also, it did shape obviously where she is now. So it's like she couldn't say. Obviously, I doubt she regrets doing it. So it's
yeah,
like,
I don't think so.
You just have to go in knowing exactly what it is and not be not convince yourself it's something that it's not, is basically it.
I would love to have more degrees. I just don't want to do them.
That's my problem. When I went back and I had to sit in class and learn stuff that I was sitting there and I remember being like, why am I learning about a reaction that I don't care about when I could be learning about a reaction that could be really cool? No, like actually, right? So that's like the one thing that got me too.
Yeah, it would be lovely to have a chemistry degree and an economics degree and a psychology degree and a music degree. I just don't want to put in the 10 years of grunt work to do all those things. So I'm going to try to fake it.
There's so many online courses now that you can watch. It's not going to ever give you the knowledge you need to be like, yeah, basically degreed.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair to say, but it would give you enough to be knowledgeable.
No, there's an immense amount you can get if you're driven. Like John doesn't have a degree. He's a graphic designer. He just read more evolution papers than most people ever read, including people who study evolution. And now
exactly. You just keep doing. I mean, and I even say in general, like chem, I only took up to org 3. That's what I'll say.
I crashed out at org 1, so
so I'm saying like it's kind of a joke because it obviously is like significantly still higher than even people in other sciences, just because it was required by my program.
Yeah.
But it's like for me to go into doing chemistry all the time, I didn't need a chem degree.
Right.
And I don't technically do what my degree is. I just had like a background and I was able to build on that.
Yeah. And
it's like
it's so much
of what I learned
you have
was from doing stuff.
And you have to, like, whatever you do, you have to learn the specifics. Like whatever degree you have to learn the specifics on the job anyways. You didn't take a degree in any of the particular reactions you're doing.
That's why even as like when you go into research, it's all I don't know. It's kind of I only know the perspective of my lab, but it is a thing where everyone complains about undergrads. So it's like everyone's like, oh, they got a new undergrad in their lab, and then people would just they don't make fun of the person. They'd be like, undergrads are idiots, because the reason they say that is because they have no practical experience.
Right.
So for the first 3 months, you're kind of an idiot in your lab. That's just how it is. And you get, because if you do a degree, like I said, I did just labs. You do what, 5 labs a semester, and you do that 3 times, and it's like over the course of 3 years, you're by no means an expert. But when you're a researcher, it's like you're doing that 24/7 all day, or not 24/7 all day. Well, sometimes some people do, but you're doing it every day. Like we even worked on weekends and stuff, right? So it's like you do it all the time, and you have to come up with your own procedures. You have to. It's a completely different thing where you learn so much more.
Yeah.
Um,
It would seem like it would be worth trying to figure out how to make undergrad give you more of that knowledge. But
I don't think you can. It's just they don't have the resources to have that much like applied experience. They just don't.
But do you feel like the stuff that you did learn in undergrad, was there a lot of fat there that ended up being unnecessary, or was it all useful?
I'm
I
like
mean,
the one. Wait, there's no time limit on this, is there?
I mean, the time limit on this stream, the time
Yeah.
limit is you. Like,
Oh.
I don't want to keep you.
Oh, I thought I
beyond,
was
like,
keeping you.
No. I got
Uh-huh.
nothing else. I mean, I've got to go grocery shopping before the stores close in 5 hours because we don't have groceries on Sundays. And
Yeah.
I'm trying right now to like stock up on groceries because my sister just started working in like an intensive COVID care place.
Oh, okay, because you're like,
And so like I haven't seen the family yet, but I've got to do childcare for my family. And as soon as I do that, I'm gonna try to not go out in public as much as possible. So I'm gonna like what I'm gonna do after this. I'm like often after my streams, I'll do a Twitch stream like of production. But today I'm just gonna go off and go and buy an immense amount of stuff.
stock up.
So that like while we're all in this little like enclave of people who might be infected, we're just not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But
that
yeah,
makes
I got
sense.
nothing else to do today. So
Okay, so maybe I'll say like
people stick around.
5:30 or something, because I have
Yeah,
some
sure.
stuff that I have to do before I leave.
Yeah, no, like this thing is billed from 3 to 5, but I've been going over quite a few days when I do when I do like the video commentary because I just
Yeah.
have more to say than I thought. So as long as people are okay with sticking around. Sorry for anyone for whom it's like 3 a.m, but
Uh-oh.
yeah, no, go for it.
I forgot what I was saying before.
We were talking about undergrad and like your
Yeah.
experience with
Getting them more applied, getting the undergrads more applied experience.
Yeah, I don't know.
You just can't. It's just too. They don't have the resources
Yeah,
for all the students to be able to do stuff, and you have to get them to independently learn how to be like self-sufficient. I worked as the lab tech in the undergrad I can't even speak, undergrad lab, and they some of the stuff you saw happen was like pretty horrific in terms of just like abusing the safety protocols or just negligence. So it's like you can't jump people right into it, and these people had already done like basic chem. They'd
Right.
already had 2 chem courses. This is just organic, so it's like you have to build people up slowly. And
Yeah.
I think that then what, after labs, you have to get people to design their own. They kind of do that. If you take actual chemistry degree, you have to do a project for one of the classes. You come up with your own project. And a lot of the people in the program also do summer internships at labs.
Yeah, so you get
that's
some,
like
get some practical
You
experience.
do, but if you're not in like chem and you don't, like, you're screwed. You basically are completely screwed. A lot of people get the internships because they're in the department and they make friends with the teachers and they trust them, because you can't afford to have somebody be dumb in the lab and hurt themselves.
Yeah.
So I know it's a very difficult.
Yeah, like
thing
I
to
think
do.
like the overarching question for like when you're doing education is like it's the question of, are we teaching the things that are most valuable for the students over these 4 years versus are we teaching the things that we are most capable of teaching, right? In an easiest sort of way. And
I actually remember, sorry, the
go for
question you asked before, you said, do you think that you learned a lot of fluff?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think I didn't answer that, right?
Not really, no.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm one of the few people that I could say no. I think every single thing that I learned was important.
Because you're just, I guess your ideas just come from like the entire web of connections you've made of all your little bits of knowledge,
I
right?
think the issue, and like I saw it with a friend of mine who was trying to he had to write an essay for a class.
Mm.
And he's a guy I've known for a while. So he was complaining because he's like, oh, this class is on, I forget what it was. And he's like, they're making us write like an essay on this. And I don't even, the topic's not even relevant to me. And I'm like, have you written? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'll read it over. I read over his essay and I went, because they had to write like 5 or something,
Okay.
4 for the class. And I read his essay and I'm like, your essay is bad. I'm like, if I were correcting you, because I was known as a TA as being kind of harsh on correcting.
All right.
Because I will not.
I was a
if
very
you're bad,
fluffy TA. I think what my problem was I spent way too long in everyone's exams. I was like trying to.
Oh,
be,
these weren't
be
exams.
nice and,
Give them
give them suggestions on what they could do better. And the first class I TA'd, I think I spent like 24 hours in 1 week trying to correct one thing, and then like, you're paid for something like 5 hours.
I would put a lot of comments and everything. Like I put a lot of effort in, but it's like I wouldn't accept a bad answer. I would, if like when I was a lab TA, I would not be like. I remember people saying like, "What was the purpose of boiling the solution?" And the person was like, "We had to boil it to make the reaction go." Or something. I'm like, that's not an answer, right? That's obvious because otherwise you wouldn't do it, right?
Yeah. You want to know the actual mechanisms.
So it's like you're not going to get full marks. And I'm like, to me, that's like a not. And there's a lot of people who gave non-answers, right? What's it called? They're like this is just bad. I mean, and these aren't great examples, but they're like, why was this chemical added? They're like, because it was needed for the reaction. And I'm like, you think you're going to get more than 0 for that? And they were begging for like part marks.
It's like, I at least said something, right? It's like, well, you said the equivalent of nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, the equivalent. So it's like I read my friend. The reason I'm saying this is I would just mark people based on what they answered. And so when my friend gave me his essay, I'm like, I would give you 10% on your essay. No, I mean, I wouldn't be that mean because that screws your average. I'll give you a chance to recover. You'll get like a 50. You wrote it. You deserve that. But he just couldn't understand why he was even writing the essay. And I told him, I'm like, the reason you're writing it, one of the biggest lessons you're learning is it's a research essay and your research sucks. Like he's not referencing things properly. His arguments aren't backed up. I was like, this is factually horribly written.
Okay.
And I'm like, rewrite it. So he did. And it was better. He submitted it. And I think he got like a 65 on his resubmission. And then I was like, you got a 65 because it's still bad. Then he wrote the next one. And I didn't see them in between, but he sent me the final one he wrote. And I was like, this is actually like decent. And I think he got like an 80 something. Okay. So I was like, what? But he stopped complaining because he realized what he was learning wasn't like necessarily what the essay was.
It was about how to structure a description of your work, and your research, and how to write an actual thing,
and to research and to present an argument and to do all that. But I find that a lot of my friends even will be like, I went to this business class and they taught me like how to run a small business. I don't even have one. That was a waste of time. And I'm like, but they also taught you a lot of just skills in general.
Yeah.
But people focus on like this very one. They don't. I guess a lot of people don't find their own purpose in the knowledge, and they just see it as very like narrowly and be like, oh, this one thing didn't fit me, so therefore all the information was a waste of time. But it's like the reason I say this is my biochem labs were the most brutal labs I ever took. They were the harshest markers. I've talked about this a lot. Okay. To the point.
So is this the same TA that really annoyed you that you were talking about?
No. I love these TAs. These TAs were great. Different days had different TAs, but some of them were so harsh that people stopped writing parts of the lab reports because they were just going to get 0 anyway.
Wow. Yeah, so they had to change necessarily super productive.
Well, it was. So I'll tell you why. So they changed the grading scheme and said you have to, if you don't write a section, you get 0 overall.
I see.
So people had to write it. You had to write a 1-page intro presenting your topic. If you went 1 sentence over, you lost 1 on 2 for that section.
See,
so it's only worth 2 points, but they explicitly told you be succinct. And if you cannot be succinct, you're fluffing it. You will lose a mark.
Okay.
They even would check, you have to send them the raw copy, and they would check the margins to make sure you didn't like, change period sizes and whatever to fudge stuff. Because they're trying to teach you to be just succinct in your ability to present a topic. And it's like you had to reference, and every failure to reference was minus a point. So if you missed 2 references in the intro, you get 0 for the entire intro. But it forced you to actually care about what you're doing and to really learn how to research, cite, reference, how to write proper intros, how to present data. Because they really looked into, they checked your sources. Like, do you know when the people just like fake it and put random things?
I don't, because I have never I've never had to check
like,
sources on people's papers.
Well, people would go, oh, I can't find this reference, and they just put a book. But you had to reference the page, and they would randomly choose them and check them. And if they didn't check out, you'd fail. I think my TAs were at Maine. You would just get 0 for the intro. But they would actually check sources at random to make sure that they were properly, you weren't just either making up the info and that the source was perfect, like actually cited properly. But what I learned from that was how to do research.
Right.
It fundamentally taught me I couldn't do the channel without it, because everything I learned on how to research was from that course.
Yeah.
But it's like the biochem stuff, I don't remember any of the labs we did. I don't remember anything.
I think this is a common, I don't know, debate on how to do education, right?
I also didn't care about biochem, like the practical side, so that didn't count either.
Like that question of like how harsh to be in your, how much to push people. Like this is something that always comes up in different, I don't know, in a lot of different formats. It came up a lot in the music world when have you seen the movie Whiplash?
No, I have not.
So it's a movie with J.K. Simmons about this like brutal.
I know of the
teacher.
movie, but I've never seen it.
Yeah. And there was a lot of, because that was like kind of the old school style of jazz education, was like a lot like that. It was like, you're gonna do this perfectly. You're gonna come back to me. You're gonna have it perfect. Otherwise, otherwise you're gone. And the more modern one is more, I don't know, like that's now considered like, I don't know, either the good old days or the bad old days, depending on who you are in jazz. And
I just I don't agree with that. So the reason I'm okay with it in the perspective that I got it, and the reason why as a TA I said so my students, they got crushed. I say crushed. They got like bad on the first lab, but they were I think the highest performing lab students in my class, like in the lab section.
Yeah.
And the reason for it was like, the reason why I think it's important is because unlike jazz or music, it's very subjective, right? Like them going like, oh, I'm going to discipline you because that's how I was disciplined. That's not really a reason.
Yeah. It's just a tradition.
In science, it was, if you write a bad paper, you will get ridiculed. You'll never get your research out. You might not even get the chance to do research. It's like you need to be able to cite, reference, and present data organized and properly. Otherwise, you are useless as a researcher. So it's like it's required. It's something you actually need. So I find that them being, oh, you're just harsh, and I'm like, you have to balance it. Obviously, you don't just go, you made one mistake, it's 0. But they ramped up how harsh they were as they got closer to the end of the year. That's my perspective of it. So it's like they're lenient at the beginning, and then if you don't pick up on the mistakes, you're going to get punished for them. They don't just like skewer you the whole way through and you learn nothing. But I think that's important, because otherwise, what are you preparing them for?
Yeah. Well, it depends what you are preparing for. Like you want to make it a gauntlet when the real world is in fact a gauntlet, I guess.
Yeah. And our TAs were super cool. I liked all of them, and they would just tell us that. They're like, you go, hey, why'd I get like minus marks? And he'd be like, look, you said you referenced this, but he goes, but when we looked at it, that point isn't backed up. And he goes, that's pretty bad. You just basically lied. And he's like, if you put that in a paper, he goes, that's really bad for your reputation if it just looks like you're just lying.
Right.
Or misquoting other people. He goes, you might upset other people if you're making claims that they never made. So he's like, you just have to be careful with your wording. So it's like stuff like that. You're like, I understand. You can't make claim, you can't misquote quote other people, or you have to be careful. You can't just like slap stuff together and submit it.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So I think it was good training.
But yeah, I guess they're like, my worry is that you kind of need a ramp for that kind of thing, right? Like
When they did it,
there's a way
they
that
were not like
like
they
trial
didn't just like throw you off
yeah.
a cliff right away.
like trial by fire is going to burn a lot of people if they have no experience with fire, right? And you're just going to lose them.
Oh,
and maybe maybe that's okay.
My first
depending on
lab,
what
I had
you're
no idea
doing,
what I was doing, and I think
yeah.
I got like a 60.
Mm.
So it's like everybody gets a 60.
Yeah.
But it's like the people who really put in the effort to improve and fix their mistakes. There was a guy averaging 97 or 100 on like every lab.
Mm.
It's just like if you just put in the time and effort, you could do it. But the problem is I wrote most of them the day before. So,
So you didn't do well, and you consider it just that you didn't do well, is what you're saying.
I never complained about my mark because I was just like, that's a fair point. Yeah. And that's why, like I said, when I was a TA, my students, I would just like, if you gave me a non-answer, I'm like, I'm not going to give you credits for an answer you didn't give.
Right.
And I had some students from other sections because you always rotate. They'd complain, and I'm like, but you never answered the question. He's like, but at least give me half marks. I'm like, you effectively left it blank. Why would you get half marks for no answer?
But it needs to be paired with like
throw marks out.
Yeah, it needs to be paired with like teaching that person how to do
I'd
properly,
leave huge
right?
comments though.
Yeah,
I'd leave
so that's really good because you get people who are just like, this is like X X X. This is
like
nothing.
To give you an example. One exercise was literally take this reaction, draw it in ChemDraw, which is just a program you got. It's what I use to make all my diagrams.
Yeah,
and then save it as an image and put it in your report. It was just to teach people how to use the program.
Okay.
I looked at this guy's thing and I was like, it was so pixelated. Okay. And the font of it was like someone drew it in MS Paint. It was clearly drawn in MS Paint. And I was just like,
we're gonna try to pass this off to someone who's seeing 30 other people's chem draws.
Yeah, and as a researcher in chem, you use ChemDraw all the time. So I'm just like, what? So then I didn't even give him 0 marks.
What do you think is behind that? Because like that person obviously like
they probably just didn't know how to install ChemDraw or figure it out.
But they must know that they're not like that's going to be spotted, right? Like they're.
So I did. I think it was worth like 4 marks or something. For that section.
Yeah, and like you, of course, you were gonna spot that, but like, I'm kind of interested
in half marks
in the psychology of like, is that person someone who's like this course is a stepping stone to something else, and they're just trying to like squeeze by, or are they someone who's been like sent to school by their parents, and it's really important to their parents to do this, and they don't care, like, because you must know that you're not giving yourself the full value of your very expensive education.
My perception actually is that to get ChemDraw, it was annoying. You had to log into like the partner website, download it, get an email, register it. It's annoying. And my perception was the person was doing the lab really last minute, and they just got confused on how to install the program.
You just couldn't do it.
But the thing is, I still gave them half marks. But my comment was, hey, I was like, the exercise was to draw it in ChemDraw. And I was like, but I don't know what program you used, but it is very messy. I didn't want to accuse him.
Was it at least did it at least look like a molecule? Is it fair enough?
It did, but it was like shaky. Like it's like hand drawn in MS Paint.
Mouse drawing.
Basically. And he used like the line tool. And I'm like, whatever. I was like, it's all good. I'm like, your equation's great. I was like, but if you draw it like this again, people are not going to give you marks for it.
Yeah.
Right. But I still gave him half point. He submitted something. Like he drew something. He had the balls to draw it in MS Paint.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But then I had another guy who copy pasted it from Google Images.
Ooh, yeah, that's pretty easy to find.
Then you give them a 0. It literally had a watermark on it. So I'm just like, yeah, I was just like, that's like 0 effort. I was just like, hey man.
Yeah.
You might. I was like, the exercise is to draw it yourself.
Yeah.
And that I just gave him obviously 0. But I just remember those 2 things as being like, come on, how do you think you're gonna get marks like full?
I mean, in scientific papers,
Oh
you can.
God, going through the student's
You
mind.
know, sometimes in scientific papers you can use MS Paint for like my thesis has a lot of
I
drawings
totally
that
agree.
I made in MS Paint. Actually, did I? I
Well,
might
I'm-
have made them in like New Imgur or something or what that like.
MS Paint is
or
fine.
whatever,
Like
but-
I use it as a software. It's just like when your final product is so gross, you can't submit that.
yeah.
Oh man.
Well, it's we're approaching 5:30. I think I am going to take off and go grocery shopping.
Yeah, that sounds probably.
You mind me
decent idea.
sticking around for a couple minutes, and we're gonna do.
No, you can go ahead.
Do some singing, sing about some science.
I'm not singing.
Oh, do you sing? You do
No,
any
I'm
music?
saying I'm not singing.
Well, you don't have to sing now, but do you like? Someone was
What
asking.
do you mean I
about
don't
you.
have to sing now?
You don't have to sing now. You have to sing later.
What? When's later?
When we go out for karaoke, when this all blows over.
Oh yeah, I can do that.
All right, sweet. Hold on, let me do this. There we go. Bring in the bass. Yeah. Gonna bring in the reverb. Yeah. Hey, we're gonna sing about science. We're gonna sing about science. Yeah, we're gonna sing about science. We're gonna sing about science. Yeah, we're gonna sing about science. We're gonna sing about science. Yeah, we're gonna sing about science. All right. We're gonna sing about science. Yeah, we're gonna sing about. All right. What did we talk about today? What did we do? We did.
Is it bad that I don't remember
marking.
anything?
We talked about clock reactions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know any of the details though. When you got a chemical reaction and you want it for your satisfaction, if you're Nilered, you gotta do something a little bit dangerous. Oh yeah. You can't do the same reactions again and again in the lab. You would only pretend to be happy. Gotta go out and make your own lab in the island of Montreal, and then you make some cool things. Clock out of iodine. You make it into your logo. You go and post it a bit online. And people like it. You make a few more. You get a lot of subscribers. And recognition. It's a lot better than your TAO. And then saying that you gotta do it again. Gonna sing about science. We're gonna sing about science. Am I capturing Nilered? About science. We're gonna sing about science. We gotta do one more. What else did we talk about?
I've lost what's it called?
Yeah.
I have no brain anymore.
In the stream, people, what did we talk about?
I break a lot. I should just take this beaker mug and smash
do you
it
break
right
a lot
now.
of beakers?
Nah, I don't. I actually don't break much of anything unless it's done purposefully.
No. I mean, that plasma video, you broke a lot of glass.
Yeah, but that was done purposefully.
True.
Well, kind of actually. Never mind.
Kind of. Oh, when you make some plasma in your microwave, oh yeah, you might get some impurities in the glass you have. So just smash all of them with a baseball bat. Oh yeah. That will be cool. You can post it as a video. I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh. If you want your glass to be a cool color, a radiant blue, there's particular compounds in your glassware that you gotta use. If you have sodium, it doesn't work. You'll just of yellow plasma like a jerk. That's all I really remember from that video. Here we go, Nigel Braun on the check, getting ready to go. Gonna sing about
science.
Yeah.
We're gonna sing about science.
We're gonna sing
we're gonna sing about science.
on the stream
We're gonna sing about science.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna sing about.
All right, I guess that's all we're gonna do. Thanks Nigel for coming on.
No
for this extra
problem.
long stream. Is there anything you want
Fine.
to tell people about right now that they should know about in your life, in your world, your channel?
Not really.
No?
No announcements to make.
Don't buy Nigel's glassware. His mom has
Yes.
overworked.
That's actually a good point. Exactly. My mom is very overworked right now.
Don't do it. The 77 of you who are watching, don't
No, you're encouraging them.
just hold off. Certainly do not buy 100 at one time. That would be dreadful. All right. In the chat, let me know. Just spam so I can shout you out. Everyone thank Nigel for coming. Who we got today? We got Tristan Laurent, Sophios, Catherine Rosego, Prox, Dusted Moon 321, Jeanette Larson, Camille DeBose, Queentopia, Alexander Kovalj, Matt Schultze. We got AA Bowser, Radislava Bodnarova, Camille DeBois, Jan Hoffman's here. Let's see. Dusted Moon, I already said you. There's a lot of repeats because I started reading before people said things. Sarp Hangisi is here. Valdemar Brenning Hansen, of course. Jeanette Larson. Casper Ghost, Quintopia, John White, Tech Savvy Scientist, Mam Guzian, Benny Lucht, Ewa Jasic, Michelle Luo, Rafi PK. We got Alexander Kovali, Dindon Masker V. These get really hard to read after a while. Gumbledolf, Manuel Bonnet, Roberto Sigeti, Camille DeBois, Monking Flame. Thank you all for joining. We're not on tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday, so we're gonna take a break. We'll be back on Monday, probably with a regular stream. Just me doing some things, maybe watch some more videos. But yeah, Nigel, thanks for coming on.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. All right, signing off, guys. See you Monday.
We're gonna sing about science. Yeah, we're gonna sing about science.
See ya.